Chapter 701, Adventure Plan. Early the next morning, Ryan and they got up early to start preparing breakfast. Just after they swiftly prepared breakfast for the restaurant table, Rose Crystal floated in the air and took the girl out yesterday. "Thank you for saving me yesterday." The girl bowed politely after seeing Ryan and them. "Nice to meet you. My name is Xida." Looking at Xida, Ryan guessed that Rose Crystal must have introduced Xida to the previous situation. That's why she thanked her first. "Ryan, Hermione." Ryan introduced themselves briefly, and then Hermione said, "I was really shocked to see you fall from the sky when he came to this place yesterday, but only later. I found that you seemed to float down a little bit from the sky. I think you should land safely on the ground even if we don't save you." "Really? It's a pity that I was comatose at that time," Ida said after thinking for a while. "I fell from a flying boat, but I don't know why it fell slowly from the sky." "I think it should be the pendant worn on your neck," Lane said. "Because when I saw you yesterday, I felt that the pendant on your neck had a magical reaction, and it was still releasing a float-like spell magic." "Floating curse," Ida thought after hearing Ryan's words, and then said suddenly, "The person named Rose Crystal just said that you are a wizard who came here from a distant place. Is the floating spell you said the magic of your wizard?" "Yeah, like this," Hermione said, pulling out her wand and pointing at a plate on the table. "Yugadim Leviosa." As the last syllable of the spell fell, the plate floated in Ida's surprised eyes, and then began to circle around the dining table as Hermione's wand pointed. Ida this time completely believed that Ryan said they were wizards, because she saw the existence of magic with her own eyes. Just as she exclaimed, a young voice came from the door. "Sir, I'm here as agreed." "Is it Baru?" Ryan said. "Come in, we have prepared breakfast." "And yesterday the young lady who fell from the sky is now in the tent." "Tent? But this tent is so small, how could it be inside this is? My God." Baru was stunned when he walked into the tent, and the simple canvas tent that seemed to sleep only 2 people outside was actually more than before. The mansions in the town are large, and the decoration is even more impressive. Compared with the furnishings in this tent, the most luxurious house in the town that Baru has visited before looks as simple as its broken house. "My elder brother and his wife are wizards, so naturally there is something different." Rose Crystal saw Baru standing in the door with a surprised face and flew out of the air, and slightly raised his head. A look of pride. "Oh my God, a talking doll," Baru said in surprise when he saw Rose Crystal's first glance, and he was even more surprised when he found Rose Crystal floating. "Not only can you talk, but the doll will fly." "Courtesy, especially when facing a lady when you call it a doll, is really rude," Rose Crystal said. "I have my own name. You can call me Rose Crystal." "I'm sorry, Miss Rose Crystal." Baru bowed politely. "It was indeed my rudeness just now. I'm sorry, because I've never seen a person like you." "It's normal, because we have the magic that no one else has mastered, so you will see a lot of things that you have never seen before," Rose Crystal said to Baru. "So, I forgive you for your rudeness. Come with me now and we will start breakfast soon." "Brother and brother, they have reserved a place for you." "Thank you for your concern." After walking into the restaurant and learning from Baron that Baru was because of his concern, Xida bowed slightly to thank. Baru also bowed quickly to return the gift, but because of his excitement, he hit his head against the table. "Relax, my head is hard, at least harder than my master's fist. This is okay." Everyone at the table looked at themselves with concern, and Baru quickly waved his hand to signal that he was fine. However, after this episode, everyone also relaxed a lot, and they started chatting during the meal. "Did you say you came here from a distant place to find Laputa, the city of the sky?" "My father once saw the city of the sky and took pictures, but unfortunately people thought he was a liar, and in the end he also somber and ended. And now it seems that Laputa, the city of the sky, actually exists." Baru's face was surprised. "But you are already wizards. Why do you want to find Laputa when you have such magical magic?" "I'm sorry to hear your father's story, but just as your father insisted on his inner goal, we as wizards also insisted on ourselves, that is to pursue knowledge," Hermione said in a firm tone. "At least like a city that can fly in a sky like this is a great research object. If we master the knowledge, we can build a floating castle of our own in our hometown." "She was right," Ryan said after eating a poached egg. "The most precious thing for wizards is knowledge that has never been touched. There must be someone we have never seen in the sky city of Laputa." "Knowledge? Aren't you looking for wealth or rights?" Xida asked, still subconsciously clutching the flying stone sinker he placed on his chest while speaking. "I heard that many people are chasing that sky city just to find them." "Fortune?" Ryan picked up a napkin from the table and asked the 2 guests to check it and use the power of Our Lady Rose to turn it into pure gold. "The power I possess can be turned into gold, and the worldly wealth can be obtained for me as long as I want." Gosh, www.mtlnovel.com. This magic is really magical. After taking a look at the napkin that had been turned into a gold plate, Baru made a sigh. "I also believe that you are indeed not looking for the city of the sky for money or rights. After all, gold is similar to the earth for you, and in this world, as long as there is gold. What rights do you have? After making sure Ryan is not an ambitionist, everyone talked more relaxed. Ida talked about her life in Kandia in the northern mountains while her loved ones were still alive. She talked about the beautiful valleys and the yaks at home. Baru talked about her dreams and her own work. So, we are going to prepare for the day today, and we will start tomorrow to find the city of the sky, Ryan said after breakfast, then looked at Ida and Baru and asked, Hermione and I will go to the underground mine nearby to see, because I heard that the raw materials of flying stones come from there. By the way, what arrangements do you have? We'll go to my house to get something first, and then wait for you here. Ida and Baru privately discussed and Baru raised his head and replied, then we will come back here and wait for you. That's good. Ryan nodded, and then took out the two tied ropes, the size of which can be put into the palm of the small gold version with various runes engraved and handed over to the two of them. When we go out together, I will put a magic spell around this tent to protect it. You will only see this tent when you bring this thing in, so don't lose it. Relax, we will never lose this thing. After finishing Baru, they brought the magic key to their necks, and then they followed Ryan out of the tent. Chapter 702, Underground Mine. After hiding the tent with magic, Ryan and Baru waved goodbye to their respective destinations. This place is a mining-oriented town built around the mines in the canyon, so the drop in the whole town is very large, and the mine pit where they were going to collect flying stones was at the bottom of the canyon. This drop is too high, Hermione sighed after standing on the mountain and looking under the deep canyon. I really don't know how those people in the past could endure such a day can only see the sun for an hour or two. Living? Don't forget, the mine below was collected from flying stone ore 700 years ago. Lane pointed to the dirt road that was cut out on the edge of the cliff and the rails on the bridge made of wood. I think people at that time there are enough flying stones to easily climb up and down from this cliff, not the way of the current way through the rough railway or dirt road. You are right, Hermione said after carefully observing the wreckage of these roads and buildings in the valley. Look at the buildings at the bottom. It should be the people who used the original facilities in the pit to mine the various minerals that were not mined when the flying stones were mined. But after the associated mines were mined, people naturally gave up these mines and buildings. The buildings that are in use today are, without exception, located halfway up the valley and above. Then how do we go down? The rose crystal hidden in Ryan's backpack asked. You can only go down the hillside down the road, and there is no way down. How do you plan to go to the bottom mine? Go inside? Of course it's flying down. The cornflower homebrew I bought can hold the three of us down together. Flying slower should not be a problem for now, Ryan said. A flying broom was pulled out of the space pocket. Actually, you don't have to be so troublesome, Hermione said to Ryan a little embarrassedly. You have learned the magic that uses magical energy to form wings to fly. I can fly by myself. Sounds good, Ryan said strangely. But why do I rarely see you practice flying? To know that flying is not just a matter of swimming in theory, you can fly successfully. You need to do some practice. I practiced. Hermione refuted Ryan's statement. It's just that I haven't practiced in front of you. In order to practice, I also went to teacher Leo Zen to learn from the Mercury lamp how to use wings to fly. After two people stood on the edge of the cliff and stretched their wings, Ryan didn't know why Hermione avoided her practice flight. After mobilizing the energy in the body, Hermione blew out two groups of blood from her back. These blood seemed to have life, and slowly stretched out with her back as the core, just like the trees continued to grow, and finally formed a pair of red skeleton-like wings. After the wings were fully extended, they flicked gently. With the flapping of the wings, a cloud of black mist emerged from the skeleton and began to spread along the skeleton, just like the film of the dragon wing. Completely filled the gap in the skeleton. After shaking her wings a little, Hermione's feet flew off the ground. Ryan figured out why Hermione was reluctant to practice flying in front of herself. Because the wings were full of evil and darkness. Especially for women who have a love for beauty, the black and red wings are really awful. This pair of wings looks pretty cool. As a person who has experienced the cultural baptism of the 21st century in his previous life, Ryan doesn't think that this wing has anything unsightly, but feels a special beauty. Really? That's great. Hermione felt Ryan's heartfelt compliment through the soul connection of the two people, and the whole person became a lot happier at once. Let's go now. If we move faster, we might go back for lunch. After speaking, Hermione came to the edge of the cliff to add a phantom body curse to herself, then stretched her wings and swooped down. Ryan and Rose Crystal also glanced down from the cliff follower Hermione after casting an invisibility spell on their bodies. This pit is at the very bottom of the canyon. It took three people some time to fly into the pit. This mine is a sky pit. The entrance is not very big, but it is very deep. After they descended to the bottom of the pit, there was almost no light at all, and they could only vaguely watch the sky above the head that was now the size of a ping-pong ball. It feels like the underground level in our first grade. It is also deep underground. After stepping on the ground, Hermione folded her wings and looked at the small piece of light above her head with emotion. Unconsciously in the past, time has passed so long. Yeah, as if everything happened just yesterday. Ryan folded his wings and also sighed. Fortunately, The two people had a good dark vision after the body strengthened many times. At least at a distance of 20 or 30 meters you can still see clearly inside. According to the previous adventure experience, it is best not to light the lights in this dark and unknown situation, otherwise it will easily become the target of the enemy hidden in the dark. So in the darkness, 4 people set off. After reaching the bottom of the pit, Jill took the initiative to come from Rose Crystal's body and volunteered to walk to the forefront to explore the way. According to her statement, in this complex environment, as a hero, she is more suitable to act here, while being able to at any time, her incarnation is more likely to survive the raid. After walking out for a while, Lane discovered that there were a lot of traces of human activity around him, such as the traces excavated by various metal tools on the stone wall, and some wooden support columns that have begun to decay. Even on the ground you can find metal tracks that have been covered with thick dust. "Which direction are we heading now?" said Hermione, holding her magic wand, looking a little confused, because the pits in this area are well connected, and some of them were left during the earliest excavation flight, and more are some people who later excavated other minerals. From the time left www.mtlnovel.com because of the enrichment of minerals here, people have been digging in this direction for hundreds of years, and now a cave system like a complex spider web is left underground. Therefore, Hermione stopped when she came to the bifurcated road with exits up, down, left, and right in front of her. She didn't know which direction to go next. "I have a way," Ryan said and took out a slap-sized gold compass and tapped it with a magic wand, and soon the pointer in the center of the gold plate pointed to a tunnel entrance. "Let's go this way." Lane pointed to a tunnel to the left. "I asked Barry yesterday. He told me that this place produces only a variety of metal ores in addition to flying stones, and those ordinary metal ores will not have a strong magic reaction. Therefore, we only need to pass this compass, just find the place with the strongest magical response in this area." Guided by the compass, the 4 people came to an open space by the underground river in only 2 hours. But they found that they were not the first to come here, because there was a light of kerosene lamps in the open space, and a figure that was not tall seemed to pack something beside a light. In this quiet underground space, footsteps can travel far and far. So when Ryan walked 50 to 60 meters away from the figure, they saw the man standing and asked, "Who is there?" "Relax, sir." From afar, Ryan saw that the man in front of him had a big beard that was thicker than President Dumbledore, but he looked a lot shorter, giving the impression that he was a dwarf. "We are just tourists from afar, come here to visit the mine where the flying stones were mined." Chapter 703, Get Flying Ore. "Oh, you originally came to see the mine." After discovering that Ryan was just some young people in very high-grade clothes, the dwarf-like old man put down his raised hoe, and the whole person looked relaxed. "Quite a lot. You can call me Pom." Knowing that there are not many unusual people in the pits here, how do outsiders like you know? "Because we met Barry yesterday. He told us that there is a mine of flying stones at the bottom of the valley." Ryan explained to the old man in front of him that in his impression, this old man should know Barry of. Sure enough, the old Pom like a dwarf smiled and plucked his beard. "Oh, it's the little guy Baru. I remember that I told them these kids a long time ago about the story of this deep underground, and it's no wonder he will tell you this place. By the way, lad, that one in you, what is the sound? I hear something seem to be calling you." "On me." "Oh," Ryan said, drawing a small gold plate from his arms. This gold plate was exactly the same as the one handed over to Baru at the time, but now the gold plate did not stay there quietly, and it was a constant buzzing vibration. This means that Baru should have encountered some danger that triggered the defense I set on this gold board. After finishing, Ryan lightly pressed a rune on the gold plate and said, "Baru, how are you doing now? Why is the defensive magic prepared on the pendant I gave you activated?" "Just now the pirates found us. They chased us all the way, and after they escaped to the railway, they met the armored train of the army. Both of us and Hida almost got shot. Fortunately, the gold pendant you gave us, our body surface was covered with a golden glow protective layer to block the bullets and shells, and at the same time let us land safely. But unfortunately, the panda stone pendant of Hida was broken by the shrapnel and the lanyard was lost. It may have fallen into the hands of the army now." Jinbun's voice came from Baru. "People are fine," Lane said comfortingly. "Can you tell us where you are now?" We are in the bottom pit at the bottom of the valley, the one with a bunch of abandoned factories around." Hida's voice came from the gold plate. "By the way, I saw a very fresh footprint on this ground, as if someone had just walked by. That should be ours. Didn't I say we were going to see the mining site in flight, before we got down from the pit in the ruins of that factory?" Ryan said. "Okay, you are waiting there now. I'll come and pick you up." After finishing, Ryan stood up and moved to the bottom of the tanking just now using phantom dislocation. Baru and Hida just lighted up a small oil lamp and stood looking around, and Ryan, who suddenly appeared in the air, startled them. "We wizards also have their own ways of traveling." Ryan shrugged his shoulders and extended his hands. "Okay, take my hand. We will meet you soon." "We have found the flying stone pit before." There was an old man with a big beard. He said he called Bomu. "I also know you, Baru." "It's Grandpa Pom." Baru showed an expression of sudden enlightenment. and then stepped forward and Hida took Ryan's left and right hands respectively. He often tells his stories to us children, but why is he under the mountain now? We should know by the time we meet. Ryan finished disillusioning with his two children. After a sense of squeeze, they appeared in the pit left after the flying stone mining. Vomit. As soon as they reached the pit, the two children bent down and let Ryan's hand nausea. At this time, Hermione picked up 2 cups of freshly brewed hot tea and walked over and handed them to the two children, who came up slightly and straightened. Drink some hot tea. Hermione handed over the teacup to the two and said, "This is basically the case for the first follower manifestation, and it will be much better when you get used to it a few times." A few minutes later, everyone was drinking tea and talking about the city of sky and flying stones around the fire. After Elder Pom extinguished the fire, a few people saw a scene of unbelievable beauty. "It's so beautiful." Hermione held her hands on her chest and watched the flying blue orb gleaming in the dark blue light scattered throughout the cave. After the light source was extinguished, a beautiful view like a starry sky was formed. "Oh, I'll show you a stone," Pom said as he picked up a stone from the ground and smashed it with a small mine hammer that he carried with him. Sure enough, a blue light like an annual ring appeared on the cross-section of the stone. However, as some light spots disappeared into the air, the light on the cross-section of the stone gradually disappeared, and finally became the same as ordinary stones. "I just said that the stones in this area contain the components of flying stones, but these components will change when they touch the air and then disappear," Pom said as he picked up a stone and repeated the operation just now. Once Ryan's hand suddenly released a pink light that wrapped the light spot in the air, and then a crystal of half a sesame-sized flying stone condensed in his hand. "Is this?" Pom showed a look of consternation as he looked at the extremely tiny translucent crystal with bright light in Ryan's hand. "I used to hear that only Laputa talents have the technology to make this crystal, so they can build islands floating in the air." After, Ryan learned from Pom that Laputa was there, and also received a warning that the old man told them that such magical things might bring good luck or misfortune. In the next few hours, Ryan summoned the Virgin Rose to analyze the composition of the flying stones around him. Through these analyses, he found that the flying stone can indeed convert all the energy around and create a floating position, while providing a stable energy to the outside. "It's just that in the shortest time, I need to take a look at the specific use of this energy in the shortest time." www.mtlnovel.com. After finishing these things, Ryan and they led the way from the top of the mountain together. An exit left the mine. Of course, before that, he and Hermione teamed up to collect enough flying stone components from this mine. But Ryan did not melt them into a crystal. After all, Ryan's technology for making in-flight crystals is reversed from the one worn by Xida. He has a certain difference between the production methods of large and small crystals. Although his current technology can obtain enough ore through material conversion, it needs a lot of magic support after all. So he didn't want to waste the ore on hand. After saying goodbye to Grandpa Pom, everyone avoided the reconnaissance of planes and people on the ground by phantom dislocation, left the mine and returned to their tent, and began to discuss the next move. "Before we fell just now, I was anxious to read the spell of asking for help, and the pendant emitted a beam of light and pointed to the distance," Hida said at this time. "Later, the army fired artillery, and the shrapnel after the explosion knocked out my pendant. I am now worried that the army has moved towards the city of air in Laputa." "Why your pendant will guide the existence of Laputa?" Baru asked with some curiosity. "And why would the army arrest you, such an ordinary shepherdess?" Because I still have a name. It's called Laputa. Laputa. Hida took a deep breath and said as if she had made up her mind, "I think I may be a descendant of Laputa's ruler." Chapter 704, Set Sail. "Then we must rush to find Laputa in front of the military now." After Hida said his identity, Ryan suggested, "The previous light was probably found to indicate the location of the city of the sky." Know that those who wear black glasses can go to Hida, who is now a shepherdess, which means they know a lot of things. Maybe they have ways to control the sky city. "You're right. Let's go now," Baru said with a wave of his hand, but soon his movements froze. But how do we get there?" Although Hida remembers the beam according to the location, but we don't have a flying boat. Moreover, we have to find it before the military. "We can solve this problem," Hermione said directly. Then she took everyone out of the tent to open the space door, and then summoned the small spaceship that was obtained from the world of the man in black last time. In fact, when choosing an aircraft in this world, the airship that summoned the Brotherhood in the world of radiation is more suitable, but now the time is a little tight, and it is more appropriate to focus on practicality. "This airship is so strange, I have never seen a similar one before." After seeing a bus-sized spaceship suddenly appeared in front of him, Baru said with some doubt, "It feels much smaller than the flying ones I have seen before." "Relax, no one on this planet can catch up with us." "Well, now everyone hurry up and take off while the plane that was previously surveyed over the canyon is not coming." Ryan waved his wand. "Let the tent pack and pack quickly, and then enter the spaceship with everyone." After entering the spaceship, the door of the spaceship automatically closed. After the soft lights on the ceiling lit up, Baru and Xida opened their mouths in surprise, because the interior of the spaceship was much larger than the outside. Is this magic? Baru rushed to a display screen. The display screen faithfully reflected the outside situation into the spaceship. It looked like a huge porthole. Of course, this is a product of the combination of technology and magic, Ryan introduced in a proud tone. We bought a lot of spells in the spacecraft after we bought it, making the spacecraft overall stronger than it used to be. After speaking, Ryan's head slightly raised and shouted, "Now turn on the stealth engine, and then head towards the east." After a slight shock, the spacecraft flew from the grass on the hill. At the same time, a blue aperture shifted from the bow to the stern, and swept across the entire spacecraft. With the movement of the aperture, the spacecraft slowly disappeared into the air. This spacecraft can fly at Mach 15 in the atmosphere, which is 15 times the speed of sound propagation. Ryan explained to Baru, so we should be able to reach Laputa in front of the military. You are right. Baru nodded vigorously. I heard that the military's fastest flying warship can only travel 60 kilometers per hour, and our speed is more than 300 times that of him. If the direction is correct, we should be able to reach Laputa in a few minutes. Let us look at the military's plan first. Ryan finished speaking to the ship's artificial intelligence command. Now monitor all the military's radio communications, and list the movement of the warship and the flight plan. Only a dozen seconds after the order was issued, a large amount of data appeared in front of them with a projection. At the same time, the artificial intelligence on the ship said in a mechanical voice, "There are now 17 radio communications related to the transfer of flying warships detected. Excluded there is only one thing that is relevant to us after the normal patrol and transfer. This is too fast." Baru showed an incredible expression. I heard that the military radio used the latest password. But you cracked their secret almost instantly. That is, of course. The technology here is too far away from what we have. Their passwords have no effect on us, Ryan said. His words are not an exaggerated description. Sometimes the generational difference of technology can be achieved the crushing of inferior technology. For example, with the help of quantum computers, the messages encrypted by the early cryptography used by the military are no different from the plain text messages. After the explanation, Ryan asked the spaceship, "Okay, now tell us what is the information about the transfer of the airship related to us, and all the sailing plans of the ship." The position of the ship, from base B7 to the base of the Grand Canyon. The artificial intelligence on board continued to use that flat tone. According to the transfer order, this military's fastest flying warship will depart for Laputa tomorrow morning. The estimated flight time is 24 hours. It seems that we should be able to reach the City of the Sky 2 days in advance. After listening to the artificial intelligence on the spacecraft, Ryan turned his head and said to everyone, "There should be a way for us to hide the City of the Sky in 2 days." Not found by the military ambitions. Since they knew the military's plan, Ryan did not sail so aggressively at the highest speed, but controlled the sailing time to about half an hour, so that they could just have a simple lunch on the ship. Steaks, salads, and juices made from some kinds of fruit make up the main course of this simple lunch, but the skill of the skillful gentleman still makes everyone satisfied. When everyone spends more than 10 minutes eating lunch afterwards, the messy dining table was left for the robot to clean up, and they came to a small room next door drinking tea and chatting. "You have such advanced technology and powerful magic. Why have we never heard of your existence?" After a few minutes of talking, Hida asked with courage. "The people with such powers to you will certainly not succumb to the rule of the military, but I have never heard of your conflict with them." That's because Ryan and Hermione glanced at each other and discussed a few words through the Phoenix brand. They didn't expect Hida to see the problems in their previous narrative in such a short time. But this is also expected. After all, magic can be a powerful force for some individual people. But like this spaceship now represents a complete industrial system www.mtlnovel.com, it is not that individual people can make it by themselves. Soon the two reached a consensus on how to answer Hida's question. Hermione cleared her throat and looked at Hida and said, "Because we are from a world other than this world, you naturally have never heard of us." "What?" Hida and Baru stood up from their seats in surprise, but Ryan made a slightly restless gesture. "Relax, we are just traveling and pursuing our knowledge that does not exist in our world, not for conquest or war." "Is that what you said is true?" Baru asked in a suspicious tone, but soon he thought that Ryan hadn't done anything evil in their previous actions. It was inappropriate for him to ask like this, so he stumbled. "Speaking, I mean, before we saw a lot of people who had enough strength and full of greed for Laputa. You are worried that we will use Laputa to use the Sky City in the evil place." Ryan made the tropic straightforward and said, "I can understand why you think so, but I need to tell you it's because we really don't use this city for evil purposes. After all, for us, the weapons on the ancient Laputa are not even as powerful as we originally had. Similarly, we ruled several countries in other worlds, but that was not obtained by our conquest, but was elected as king by the local people after eliminating the oppressors and evil forces." Hermione said seriously, "Relative power is an obligation. For us, ruling a country is a heavy burden. Compared to ruling a country, we are more willing to pursue endless knowledge. Chapter 705, Arrive at Destination. Just as Ryan and they were talking, the sirens in the spacecraft suddenly sounded. Warning, the ship's radar has detected large-scale violent air movement ahead, requesting to turn on energy protection or change the route. Pick in the image. Ryan commanded the artificial intelligence inside the spacecraft. As soon as the voice fell, a 3D stereoscopic image appeared in front of several people. From the picture, they can see that a huge wind column from the sea to the sky is standing in front of him. According to the data marked on the side, the wind column has a height of more than 3,000 meters. Yangmou, as high as a mountain. Xida exclaimed softly as she looked at the projection in front of her. We are approaching the now. What should we do next? Do we need to avoid it? I think we might need to rush in, Baru said after carefully looking at the 3D projection. This place should be a giant storm called the Dragon's Lair. My father said that the sky strong winds are blowing around the city. I think this unprecedented storm is the sky city that my father saw. Then how should we get in? Should we just rush in? Xida said, looking worried. With such a strong wind, I think that even the most advanced flying warships of the military will get shot into pieces. My father told me that there was an entrance on the wind wall to allow safe passage, otherwise the broken airship he used to ride would probably not be able to come back and tell me the story, Baru said, then looked at Ryan. So I think we may need to fly around this cloud peak and find the entrance. In fact, it's not so complicated. After all, our ship is much stronger than the flying ship in this world. The aircraft that can fly across galaxies in the harsh environment of the universe will never be afraid of the extreme conditions inside this planet's atmosphere. Ryan ordered, open the shield and rush straight in. Understand that the energy shield is on. The voice of artificial intelligence came from the spacecraft. At the same time, a blue transparent shield-like air bubbles rose over the surface of the spacecraft to cover the entire spaceship. Now let's rush in. After the spacecraft raised the energy shield, Ryan told everyone. I saw the spacecraft rushed straight towards the huge Yangmou, and then plunged into it. After the spacecraft entered the clouds, everything around was dark. The thick clouds blocked all the light, making the interior of Yangmou as dark as the night without stars and moon. In addition, the wind in the clouds is several times stronger than the wind outside the clouds. Under the violent friction of the air, one after another huge, like a dragon-like lightning rotating around the spacecraft and exploded. But no matter whether it is a blade-like wind or a powerful lightning, it can't break through the thin energy shield outside the spaceship. Under the influence of the spacecraft's powerful engine, it took them more than 10 seconds to break through the thick wind wall and rush into the interior of Yangmou. After breaking through the clouds, the interior is a calm space with only a breeze. After breaking through the surrounding clouds, Ryan took everyone to the forefront of the spaceship. The spaceship was remodeled. The lower level of the front end is the weapon and control room, while the upper level is the restaurant and observation deck. Under Ryan's order, the three walls of the restaurant began to display the outside scene in real time, which looked like transparent. This is so beautiful. Everyone gave a heartfelt admiration. At this time, the clouds that enveloped the entire spaceship had just dispersed, and a majestic sky city appeared in everyone's sight. The lower half of the sky city is a hemisphere, and the upper half is a wall that is raised in sequence by three. In the middle of the wall are some white buildings, and a giant tree on the top of the building emerges from the top, and the dense foliage covers all the buildings. It's incredible. Ryan also looked at the huge canopy that almost covered the entire sky city and expressed his emotions. This tree clearly exceeds the upper limit that the world can support. How did this happen? We can figure out why after we went up, Hermione said, but we need to find a place where we can dock now, because I think there are many buildings in this place that are heavily weathered, and I worry that our ship needs only a little touch will break that building. Hermione's worries are not unreasonable, because the bottom wall of the City of Sky stands like an aperture in the sky, which means that in the long time, the land below the City of Sky is likely to be weathered. There are many reasons. In this case, leaning on your own spaceship does not guarantee that it will not destroy the buildings of the Sky City. After making a circle around the entire Sky City, Ryan and they turned on the spacecraft's anti-gravity system and suspended it on an open space above the Sky City. Just after they jumped off the spacecraft, a heavy footsteps came from a distance. Ready to fight, Ryan and Hermione pulled out their wands and pointed to the place where the sound came out, and at the same time motioned the two children to find a place to hide. You go back to the spaceship first, it's safer there. Understood. Baru nodded and pulled Hida into the spaceship. As the crystallization of ancient technology, Ryan worried that they might encounter some defense systems not seen in anime, so this time first it is always okay for combatants to retreat. Soon, a robot covered with moss came over. The robot glanced at the two red lights behind them, and then walked in the other direction. It should be for us to follow him. Looking at the movement of this robot, Ryan and Hermione simultaneously thought of the robot in harmony with nature in the anime. To be precise, this robot with self can no longer be described as a robot. He should have possessed his own soul after a long evolution, which is a constructive life. At this time, a purple streamer flew out of the spaceship www.mplnovel.com and said to Ryan, The big man just now let us follow him to appreciate this beautiful city. Can you understand him? After discovering that there was no danger, the two children also ran out of the spaceship. Xido asked curiously about the rose crystal floating in the air. But I didn't hear anything just now. Of course. Rose Crystal raised her head proudly. Don't forget that from a certain angle I am the same creature as him. In this case I know what he is going to tell us. Several people followed this robot along a path through a beautiful garden. On both sides of the path there were some beautiful buildings made of white marble. It's just that because of the passage of time, these buildings are dilapidated. However, corresponding to the broken building, the whole garden is full of vitality, and the plants grow lushly. Some cute little animals are running around in the plants. Wow, this is a city. After being attracted to a square pool by a group of small otter-like animals, Hida saw a shocking scene through the clear pool water. This should be the patio of the Sky City in the past. Looking at the huge city hidden under the water, Ryan probably guessed what the pool was all about. But then I didn't know whether it was a coincidence or a robot job. They converted this into a large storage tank to provide water for the entire Sky City ecosystem. Finally, under the guidance of the robot, several people climbed a huge staircase and walked through a deep doorway into the buildings that were seen at the top of the Sky City. Chapter 706, Enter the Core. The view in the top building of the City of Sky is amazing, because there is almost no trace of someone who has been in the whole building. The whole space looks green, and it looks like a huge primitive jungle. Are we inside a building? This building is really magnificent. Barry looked at the thick trees with emotion. Suddenly he looked at the top of the big tree, then shouted with his finger pointing upward. Look at everyone, the sky. Lane they looked up in the direction of their fingers, and really saw a transparent structure like glass. But Lane clearly remembered that the walls were white and opaque from the outside. It's amazing. Although this kind of one-way transparent material is also in the hands of Ryan, but this kind of one-way transparent material is used to make an oversized greenhouse, and then build a small primitive jungle that can circulate inside. Shocked. But after walking through the small jungle, the truly stunning scenery appeared in front of him. A huge, miracle-like tree stood at the very center of the whole building, under the tree broad and flat lawn. A broken robot is standing under the big tree. On the ground in front of him and the big tree are each inlaid with a huge black stone slab. There are many things carved with a cuneiform text that has never been seen before. This English, which is common in the world, is not a language at all. It would be nice if I could read these words. Hermione looked at the slate with regret. It must have recorded a lot of knowledge and stories about this civilization. Maybe it also recorded why those people gave up the reason why the city left. But it's too bad not to know these words now, just like there is no key at the door of the vault. I guess it should be a warning to future generations. Xida said, they should have left the city after doing something wrong, so they left this stone tablet before leaving and told future generations not to make the same mistakes as them. Even if it is carved into a mural, at least let us guess what happened. Ryan complained. This kind of thoroughly mature abstract text makes it impossible for anyone to guess. In terms of the transfer of culture and knowledge, the accuracy of the drawing is relatively low, but at least once the civilization breaks down, the most important warning can be told to future generations. Oh, Hida, from your secret name, you should be a descendant of the ruler of the city of Laputa. Baru turned to ask Hida after hearing their complaint, your home, have you left any knowledge about this language? Sorry, there really isn't. After looking down for a moment, Xida said very regretfully, our family only left a variety of spells, but unfortunately those spells need to be used with a pendant. Okay, let's find it here again. Maybe I can find more written records. If enough text is collected, I will try a prophetic magic to see if I can translate it. Ryan shrugged to heaven. Looking at it, I was surprised to see that the color of the clouds on the outside sky had faded, and the storm surrounding the city had also decreased. In his impression, the clouds around this city should be scattered only the morning after tomorrow. But at the current rate of cloud dissipation, Ryan estimates that the barrier formed by the storm around in an hour or two will disappear. Ryan looked up at the sky and quickly attracted everyone's attention. After looking out the window with his eyes, others quickly noticed that the clouds and storms now surrounding Lapta were spreading out. I always thought that the stone used as the pendant was the key, Hermione said to Ryan through the Phoenix brand. But I didn't expect that this city of sky is actually used for blood detection. It seems that Lapta's technology is more powerful than we thought. Oops. The clouds are gone. A worried expression appeared on Xida's face. We just didn't listen to the military's radio. It said they would send flying warships to find Laputa. What if they took control of this floating city? I'm worried that the city will be used by ambitions, a tool to achieve your evil purpose. Then what should we do? Barry looked anxious, and then turned to look at Ryan. If you are wizards, is there any magic that can make those in the military find this city of the sky? There is indeed a way. Lane nodded. But it is absolutely impossible to cover up such a big city in a short time, even if we work together. It is impossible to hide the whole city before the flying warship arrives. As long as you think about the scale of this big World Cup venue, it took half a year to mobilize half of the magic world to cover it up, and you know that it is impossible for two people to apply so much complexity in 48 hours. Magic hits such a big sky city, and pure visual stealth is basically useless for those who have pendants as instructions. In addition to using magic to hide the city of the sky, we have other solutions that can also solve the current problem, Hermione said at the edge. At this time, with the technological level of our spacecraft, it should be easy to shoot down the coming battleship. To be precise, our spacecraft can destroy all the aircraft in the world with its powerful energy. As long as they can't leave the ground, it's impossible to grab this sky city. No, you can't do this. Hida shook her head after reacting. If we kill like this, what is the difference between us and those who are ambitious? So what do you say we should do? Baru scratched his hair in distress. We can't hide such a big city, and we can't eliminate the guys who might hurt this city. Is it? Can I just watch the city fall on the hands of some villains and bring darkness and killing to the world? I have a way, Ryan said, summoning Our Lady of Roses. I see if I can find the control room of the City of Sky. Maybe I can find a good way. www.mtlnovel.com. So beautiful. Baru and Hida marveled at the pink gemstone floating above Ryan's head, and soon a pink light spot flew out of the gemstone under the guidance of Ryan's spell. After a few circles around a few people, it flew past the door like this building. Followed this spot. Everyone ran out of the building and ran to the edge of this platform. Because of weathering, the original path has gone. Fortunately, the giant tree on the top floor grew countless roots densely scattered throughout the sky city, allowing them to follow these thicker routes all the way down. With the help of the short-range phantom shift, they finally reached the plank road on the edge of the black hemisphere in the lower half of the sky city at the fastest speed. At this time, the pink light ball rotated around a wall, then disappeared directly in the air. Yes, this is it, Lane said, looking at a thumb-sized laptop badge on the wall. But in theory, a pendant is needed to open this door to the core area. Then Baru asked, but was stopped by Lane before he finished. But my Lady of Roses can open this door, it only takes a little time. After speaking, Ryan drew a rune in the air while holding the Virgin Rose. In 7 or 8 minutes, these runes composed of light in the air gathered together to form a light that looks almost exactly like the pendant. Click and then sink into the wall. In an instant, a hexagonal door appeared on the wall, and Ryan stood at the door with a pleased gesture. Okay, let's go in. It should be the core part of this sky city. Chapter 707, Core. How does it feel? Horrible here, said Xida, holding her chest with both hands. After crossing a short corridor, everyone is now riding a cube to the core of Laputa. But the core of the sky city is completely different from the garden above, not as sunny and full of vitality as the building above. It is a huge space with dim light. The whole space is very empty, with only a few cubic stones carved with patterns suspended in the space. In addition, the walls around the entire space are made of such stones, arranged neatly, just like the printing plates arranged in movable type printing. There are only 1 or 2 square gaps in individual places. The size and shape of the gap should be left after the stones suspended in the center of the space fly out. The cube under their feet went all the way down until they reached a corner at the bottom of the space before stopping. Ryan again used the power of Our Lady of Roses to summon the phantom of the pendant. A slate next to it disappeared, revealing a door. After everyone walks in the door, the ground moves down like an elevator. At this time, the surrounding environment is no longer dark, but it shows blue light, which is full of science and technology. We are in a position where there is a strong magic defense and extremely complex magical reactions, Lane said after sensing the surrounding environment. I think this place should have only the extreme. Even when this sky city is at its peak, a small number of people will be allowed to enter. This may be the control center that my grandma told me that only the Lapdar royal family can reach. After arriving at this place, Hida also recalled some things related to this place. How long has no one come to this place? It feels like the whole space is occupied by roots. Baru complained loudly. After falling to the bottom, the door in front of him opened, but a root with thick arms blocked the door, makes everyone unable to get out of the elevator. Don't worry, Ryan said, reaching out and touching the root of the tree to start communication, and soon the root of the tree was put aside as if it were alive. Except for the root of the tree in front of you, all the tree roots in the entire corridor outside the elevator that would hinder people's movements were moved aside, forming a smooth road leading directly to the main control room. Wow, it's amazing. Is this the power of magic? Baru and Hida whispered at the same time, and Ryan took the lead out of the elevator and said, okay, now you two hurry up. This is not just the power of magic. To achieve my level, you need a deep understanding of nature and a harmonious coexistence relationship with nature. It sounds terrible. Baru shrugged and pulled Xida behind. They walked along the empty road through a narrow corridor to the front of another wall. An arch was formed in front of the wall, accurately marking the position of the door. Can plants do this, especially when the magic of this world is not so active? Hermione asked with a puzzled look at the arch formed by the tree roots in front of her. Other plants in this world may not work, but we just saw the giant tree, Ryan said, stroking the arch made of tree roots. This tree can only grow after absorbing a lot of special energy to the point where the limit of the tree itself is exceeded. Don't forget that this place has a powerful source of energy that can make a huge difference to this tree. This change has other aspects besides body size. Ryan, while summoning Our Lady of Roses to summon the Phantom of the Pendant to open the door as before, turned his head and said to others, "For example, I just felt the big tree has now produced its own consciousness. Although this consciousness is very vague, it is not even a complete soul. But I believe that in time the big tree will become a wise tree. That's why after the tree communicated with you just now, the response it has made has exceeded the upper limit of ordinary plants." Hermione nodded in understanding. Sometimes a powerful energy source does mutate those ordinary creatures. At least in the radiation world, they have seen more creatures that mutated under the stimulation of a strong energy source. As they talked, the wall in the arch made of tree roots slowly separated to both sides, and a beam of light leaked out from inside, illuminating the entire dark corridor. After the stone door was fully opened, they discovered that all the space inside the door had been completely occupied by plants. The roots of the big tree enveloped the entire room, and at the same time a cocoon with golden light was formed in the room. And on the ground there is a herbaceous plant that can almost stand tall. The roots of these plants are straight, and only a few eggs the size of an egg are on the top 1/3. They grew densely on the floor of this house, occupying all the ground. The flying stone crystal should be in the cocoon of the root of the tree, Ryan said by pointing to the spherical space formed by the root of the tree in the middle. I can feel the powerful energy released there. Without him, everyone present could feel the power inside that cocoon. Even people like Baru or Hida who don't know magic at all feel that the light from the cracks in the roots of the trees makes them feel lighter than before. Ryan pulled out her wand at the virtual point in the air and began to release a natural affinity spell. Soon a green ripple asked Ryan's wand head to fly across the space. After touching this green ripple, those herbs retreated as if they were activated, and also took away some silk from the roots. Soon, a stone road leading to the light cocoons formed by the tree roots was exposed in the grass. When everyone followed the stone road to the big cocoon formed by the tree roots, some of the tree roots separated to the two sides, revealing a blue transparent octahedral crystal floating in the air. In everyone's line of sight, this crystal is constantly spinning in the air, releasing light and energy outward. What a powerful magic, Ryan whispered, standing in front of this crystal. In his magic perception, the crystal in front of him released a lot of magic to the outside world like the sun, but left beside the flying stone crystal. After sensing for a while on a black stone table engraved with cuneiform text, Ryan frowned. Is this? Hermione watched Ryan's expression change and approached him, then took out her wand and released several investigative spells on the stone platform. As someone who followed Ryan and saw a lot of top alchemy, she quickly discovered something wrong around her. This means of energy utilization is too rough. What is the use of power for roughness? Baru, who was confused by the communication between Ryan and them, asked www.mtlnovel.com. What do you mean now? Ah, by the way, let me give you a protection first. Although the short-term exposure of the magic energy radiation in this place will not cause any serious harm, sometimes it is better to be cautious. Ryan waved and gave the two children were covered with a pink protective cover and told the curious two children who poked the protective cover with their hands. This is used to protect you from the excessive magic energy radiation you receive. After taking good protection, Ryan explained, in short, the flying stone crystal in front of us is a great miracle. It has a powerful energy inside to maintain the flight and the city of the sky. But ancient Lapta people's use of this energy is too rough. It can be said that this city of the sky is a typical example of leader. Rough. But we think this sky city is already like a miracle, Hida subconsciously retorted. Probably because as a descendant of the Laputa royal family, she subconsciously defended her ancestors. Did not say that your ancestors are not great, Hermione placated with a smile. But the characteristics of this world prevent you from mastering magic like we do. If you only know magic through various props, it is inevitable that the magic is rough and not in place. In fact, your ancestors can do this now. One thing is already very powerful. However, according to the technology we have mastered, the use of magic power is far more perfect than it is now. I think that only 1/5 of the crystal size can now maintain the operation of this sky city. Chapter 708, Secrets in the Long River of History. According to the analysis, they believe that the ancient Laputa people should have discovered the manufacturing method of the flying stone crystal in an accident, and then created a flourishing civilization based on the flying stone crystal. However, because of the technical level mismatch, there were many problems after the establishment of the floating city, and finally the Laputa people had to give up the floating city and choose to return to the ground to live. One of the most important one is the problem of magic energy radiation. As Ryan analyzed before, the utilization rate of crystalline energy of pumice stone by ancient Laputa people is extremely low, so that a large amount of magic energy is released in vain into the surrounding environment. This high-intensity magic energy has no small harm for the Lapta people who cannot master the magic. For those living in the floating city, they will find that if they spend too long in the sky city, there will be some malignant lesions on the body, especially for the next generation born in the floating city, because they receive more radiation. The malignant lesions on the body will become more and more serious. In the end, the Lapta people who could not solve these problems could only give up the floating city of their crystallization of wisdom and put it back on the ground, while consciously blocking all the techniques of crystallization of the city of the sky and the flying stone, so as to avoid future generations repeating the same mistakes. But just like the vitality around Chernobyl, although this radiation will cause damage to humans, it will not cause damage to plants, and even promote the evolution of plants. The small ecological circle like the primitive jungle on the upper level of the sky city and the huge tree without any friends can illustrate this problem. In addition, after the big tree wraps the crystal of this fast-flying stone with its roots, part of the energy passes through the filtering of the big tree and reaches the upper layer of Laputa, the city of the sky, which nourishes the growth of the upper layer. This is the most important reason why the upper-level ecosystem, which is neither large nor perfect, can last for a long 700 years. After Ryan told everyone everything he had analyzed, the entire main control room was quiet. It took several minutes for Hida to wake up from the shock of receiving the news. Now I understand the reason why Laputa died out, Hida said with emotion. Just in the valley of Kandia, my hometown, an ancient ballad has been popular for 700 years. The lyrics are sung like this: rooted in the soil, survived with the wind, spent the winter with the bamboo, and sang the spring with the birds. I think this should be the admonition of our ancestors to future generations. You're right. It's like this big tree has pointed out a great development direction for the city of the sky, Ryan said after gently patting a tree root that was thicker than himself. High-intensity magic energy will indeed hurt people nearby, but the magic energy filtered by this tree will not only harm the surrounding creatures, but even promote the benign evolution of surrounding creatures. Yes, it is. Hermione nodded and added that she had also discovered a secret in the special energy cycle formed by this huge flying stone crystal and the big tree just by her own methods. I think if the plant filtration program was adopted in the beginning, 700 years would be enough for your generations of evolution to finally master the power of magic. When he said this, Hermione thought of the difference between a wizard and a mole in his hometown. She now has enough evidence to prove that the ancestors of wizards and many magical creatures were living in a magically stimulated environment by coincidence, and then they evolved the ability to use magic and passed it on from generation to generation. Even Hermione suspected that the ancestors of the goblins, giants or elves were actually humans at this time, except that they had changed their appearance by the magic radiation different from that of the wizards. In this way, it can explain why they are far from humans in appearance, but they are not reproductively isolated from humans. Of course, it is better to do research on these important topics in my spare time. Now they need to find a way to hide this sky city. At least Laputa's own power cannot hide the city. Ryan and Hermione were busy for 5 or 6 hours, and until the time came at night, they looked helpless to the two little ones who were close together and were fast asleep. The guy said, "Aren't we seeing a huge storm surrounding this sky city before we came?" Baru asked, a little puzzled. "It's not enough to call the storm out again. It would be nice if it was so simple," Ryan said helplessly. "You need to know that the energy and difficulty required to restart a storm in a calm sky and maintain a storm are completely different, and now that many systems in the sky city are damaged, once the storm is re-rolled, we basically unable to control the size and direction of the storm, in case the storm turns on land." "You are right." Xida nodded. "Even if all the organs along the way we came in were able to operate normally, but think about such thick tree roots that can reach this originally sealed space. This city of sky should be very much compared with 700 years ago. Big changes. I believe that in places we can't see, many things may not be able to function correctly as before. We just found that the weapon system of the entire sky city can function normally. As a floating city at the core of ancient civilization, the overall state of the pure military systems of Laputa is much better than other systems. For example, we can use this. The city fired devastating lightning or manipulated nearly 10,000 war robots to sweep everything around." Hermione said, spread her hands. "But it doesn't make sense to us. Because for a flying warship to destroy as long as our spaceship is enough, no amount of force now makes sense to us. So what should we do now?" Baru squatted depressed and scratched his hair with both hands. "There is not enough time to hide this sky city with magic, and the sky city itself is not powerful enough to hide itself as it used to." "Brother Ryan, Sister Hermione." Hida suddenly stood up and looked at Ryan. They said, "Did you say that you have your own country in other worlds?" "Yeah, www.mplnovel.com." Ryan nodded. "To be precise, we have our own countries in several worlds. It's just that all countries are not very peaceful and always face wars of one kind or another." After he and Hermione, you gave me a brief introduction to several worlds, and finally concluded, "So we have a purpose to find information everywhere, that is, we hope to obtain enough technology to defeat those enemies and for those who follow us because of believing will live a better life." "That's it." Hida nodded and suddenly said something surprising. "So can you bring this city of sky to your world?" "What?" Baru turned his head in surprise at Xida. "Why do you do this?" "It's simple." Xida looked at the big guy and said, "On the one hand, We can't hide Laputa for now. Once this flying city falls into the hands of the ambitions, then our world will be the flames are full, and peace will never return. On the other hand, even if we hide Laputa this time, but with the development of flight technology, I believe that one day we will still find this floating city. In this case, only the city that made the sky only hiding in other worlds can guarantee safety. Okay, I think we can hide this city of sky in other worlds. But what do you do then? Ryan asked with some worry now. After all, your identity has been exposed now, unless you can hide in no one else, otherwise those ambitions have been hunting you. Chapter 709, Go Away. Is this the door to the space that left this world? Hida marveled that at this time everyone had stood in the garden on the top floor and watched the spectacular scene of Lapta crossing the barriers between the world. Yes, but rest assured, our journey is absolutely safe. Ryan comforted everyone that when Hida asked Ryan to take Lapta to other worlds, the city of the sky already belonged to Ryan, and it means that Ryan can take away the city of the sky. Out of consideration for the safety of the two children, Ryan suggested to them that they could leave with Sky City. Baru and Hida agreed after a short consideration. After all, they are all orphans and there is no concern for their loved ones in this world. For their friends, if they can disappear in this world as the main target of the enemy, they will make their friends safer, and will not be involved in dangerous things. Although as the protagonist of the animation, the ordinary people Baru and Xida do not need much offset. Just paying 20 offset points, Plants vs. Zombie world opened the door for them. Yes, Hida and they chose the world of Plants vs. Zombies. In the process of being hunted down by the ambitions of the ambitions before, they left a lot of psychological shadows, so when they knew that they could choose the world, they only chose the Plants vs. Zombies without hesitation. After a brief discussion, the world with the fewest humans. Although before they provided a lot of technology and went to the world of Plants vs. Zombies many times, they repeatedly strangled the endless zombies. Even after becoming a legend, Lane cleaned up all the zombies within 10 kilometers around the area they occupied before. Greatly reduced the power of zombies. But humans are still a weak part in that world. The main core issue here is that after a long zombie apocalypse, not many humans have survived. Even after so many years of collection, Ryan and they only recruited more than 100,000 people, which is more than half of the planet's population. Fortunately, with the help of plants, robots, various high-tech weapons and alchemy props, humans have finally blocked the attacks of zombies and got rid of the fate that may die at any time. One day, humans in this world will eventually regain control of this planet. The scene of crossing the world barrier is indeed very spectacular. After a huge blue space door opened, Laputa entered the space door and entered another world with only a little power left. What they didn't know was that the magnificent scene of the Sky City passing through the world was photographed by a passenger ship on the sea and became the last trace of this legendary city left in this world. It looks no different from our original world. Baru said that through the space gate, the whole Sky City appeared above the sea on the green leaf plain. After seeing the blue sky and the snow-white clouds, Baru and Xida looked around for the first time. The Sky City appeared above the sea as soon as Luai City discovered them, and soon Dave appeared on the top platform of the Sky City in a helicopter. "Ha, my friends, Dave is very happy to see you." As soon as he saw Ryan, Dave gave him a hug enthusiastically. Then he took a step back and asked, "Yes, how do you bring a city floating in the sky this time?" This matter is a long story. In the following time, Ryan took 7 or 8 minutes to briefly explain what they had encountered in the world of the Sky City before introducing Baru and Hida to Dr. Dave. "Relax, no one here will fight for those boring ambitions." Dave assured his two children of the thump of his chest, "because we have only a few people together, and we are all trying to survive busy." "Then do you need a mechanic here?" Baru asked. "I grew up in a mine since I was a child, and I followed the master to master the maintenance principles and operation methods of many machines." "Mechanic? Of course I need it," Dave said. "But you should go to school at your age and learn the operating principles of those machines." "Compared with mechanics, we need mechanical engineers more. After all, we now have enough robots to complete the simple repetitive tasks that require a lot of manpower." "But how to improve robots and boilers is a university question." "Then I will only cattle." "What should I do in the future?" After hearing Dave say that the robot can do simple work here, she seems to be crying anxiously. She is worried that she will become a burden for everyone and be thrown away by everyone. Don't be discouraged, little girl." Dave tried to squeeze out a gentle smile. "You can go to school with your friends and wait for your future career after you come out of school. Also, breeding animals here is also a very important job. The meat that grows on the trees is only suitable for use lunch meat or ham sausages. As living standards improve, people always want to eat real meat. This is why Lane had to develop aquaculture in the world of Song of Ice and Fire before. For the newly liberated slaves, as long as there was meat at the beginning, it was enough, but as the world progressed, their demand will increase one day. Fortunately, the 5 dragons grew up slowly, and they only pay attention to the nutrition of meat, and do not pay attention to the taste. These plant flesh can just be used to feed the dragon. After appeasing the two children who had come away from their hometown to the strange new world and prepared them for their residence and school, a group of professionals came to the Sky City with robots to start a comprehensive inspection of this ancient city. Check. The situation is not optimistic, although the outer shell of the core area is extremely hard, but the internal magic flow circuit has become somewhat incomplete due to the invasion of tree roots. In addition, the buildings outside the core area are severely weathered, and even most of them are simply fixed by huge tree roots, which may collapse and fall at any time. It seems that it can only be strengthened by means of alchemy. Ryan sighed after reading the list sent after the inspection. The overall building material was aging and it was difficult to repair it by ordinary reinforcement, especially now that I don't want to destroy the uppermost ecosystem in the Sky City. www.mplnovel.com. The common methods of overall demolition and reconstruction cannot be used. Fortunately, just strengthening the building wreckage in the Sky City does not require much energy and materials, especially after Ryan used natural magic to wake up the big tree above. The big tree with spiritual wisdom helped a lot in the reinforcement work. Big busy. So during this time, except for the reinforcement of Laputa, the city of Sky, the rest of the energy was spent on the production and research of flying stone crystals. Because the production of this crystal is probably due to some accident, the Lapta people did not use the common alchemy encryption method on the crystal. In just 3 days, Ryan mastered how to make flying stone crystals. After successfully analyzing how to use flying stone crystals, Ryan began to build his own Sky City. Based on the knowledge he learned from Silver Moon City last time, he intends to build a floating magic tower that combines the advantages of various worlds this time, just like the one in Misarazu in Silver Moon City. Can our floating city become a magical building as powerful as Hogwarts Castle? Watching Ryan seal a flying stone made in a week into a diameter of 2 meters, filled with mysterious silver inside and outside after the magic array was inlaid in a hollow golden ball filled with magic gems on the magic node, Hermione asked in a whisper, as if asking Ryan, as if asking herself. No problem. I firmly believe that this castle will one day become bigger than Hogwarts Castle. Looking at the golden ball slowly floating at a height of about 1 meter from the ground after it was manufactured, Ryan held Hermione's hand, whispered, whether it is the owner of the castle or the castle itself. Chapter 710, Sky Castle. Magic Tower is a very useful fixed asset for casters, their sanctuary, research center, and fortress. Because of the powerful magical powers they possess, there are many extraordinary spells that surround and protect the building. For those spellcasters with magic towers are shields, a haven of refuge in times of danger, and a reliable refuge for mages to avoid powerful enemies or huge chaos. At the same time, it is also a spear. By using the magic engineering design, radiation, magic turbulence, and other mysterious forces obtained from various mysterious knowledge, the caster can build arcana that can greatly enhance his arcane ability and allow him to expand control. Elements, planes, and buildings of other abilities bring the most complete destruction to the enemy. At the same time, the magic tower can provide the most important scientific research environment for the casters who use it. For many spellcasters, knowledge is power. The magic tower can provide all kinds of effective functions and necessary books, items, equipment, space, etc. Allows the caster to complete every step of his research without leaving the house. In short, for the casters, they are very close to their magic tower. Through precise calculation and arrangement, the magic tower and its owner establish a connection, so that the magic power of the two can flow with each other, and gather the surrounding magic power on the magic tower. In many ways, the magic tower is not so much a residential building, but rather a magic energy gathering and channeling device. In essence, the magic tower is a magic item of architectural level. The purpose and structure of this building is to gather magic. The appearance of the tower, the towering and upright structure are all for this purpose, so the casters like to build the towering mage tower so much. This law is common in most of the world, even in the world of Harry Potter where magical civilization is not very developed. Whether it is Hogwarts, New Mungard or Hogwarts, these places that have been studied by wizards for a long time have one thing in common, that is, these places have high towers. Take Hogwarts as an example. Ravenclaw, who has invested the most energy in magic research, has his own tower. This already illustrates the effect of this tower design on the user's magical focus. Of course, not every spellcaster has its own magic tower, or to be precise, only a very small number of casters can own a magic tower of their own. Some casters can only borrow magic towers by attaching to certain powerful wizards or forces, and most of the casters have never used magic towers for their entire lives. The reason for this situation is that the cost of constructing such an enchanted building is quite amazing. Even if there are enough resources to build their own magic tower, the caster often only builds a basic tower instead of an entire castle. Take the kind of magical buildings that Ryan has seen, for example. Anyone who builds a castle is either extremely rich in builders or has experienced a long history, even for 2 reasons. Ryan, who has mastered the massive resources in several worlds, since he is determined to build a magic tower, he will naturally choose the best. Therefore, a single magic tower is naturally not his goal. A sky city like Laputa is his ideal construction model. The core of the magic tower is the energy mechanism, also known as the energy pool. Fortunately, Ryan had used flying stone crystals to solve this most critical problem. The next job is to build a house as the central room of the entire magic tower, and all other rooms of the magic tower are based on this central room. The cornerstone is built. The book says that it is best to use some stable and strong materials for the construction of the central room. The most important thing for these materials is that they have enough magic shielding effect and high enough strength. Hermione held the book Arcane Geometry. In the choice of materials, metal is the first choice, followed by metal alchemical stone. For example, like the magic tower we saw last time at Miss Yangmou, I heard that a lot of metal ore was used to make it, and the cost is also a lot higher than the ordinary magic tower. I choose materials better than they choose. Just as they spoke, puppet robots borrowed from Laputa came out of a space door and moved out one piece of silver white metal ingot. Is this a magic metal? Hermione looked a little surprised at the metal ingots that gradually piled up in front of her. She could feel a faint magical reaction on these metals. I said in the book before that only gods would build their palaces with metal as the main body. Don't forget, the world where Silver Moon City is located is equivalent to our Middle Ages. They smelt metal but they are purely manual. In this case, how could there be too much metal for the mages to squander? Metal Hill Lane shrugged. And we have a modern industrial society behind us. This should not be iron. Hermione stepped forward and picked up a piece of silver white metal. It's light and fluttering in your hand. Don't you plan to use aluminum alloy? Of course not. Ryan also picked up a metal ingot and injected a little magic power, and the metal emitted a faint blue light in an instant, just like some kind of radioactive metal. This is a titanium alloy. During the smelting, I added a little bit of mithril silver to make them magic alloys. Soon, these puppets built a room of titanium alloy members of different sizes. Then Ryan stepped forward and used the power of the Virgin Rose to fuse the whole room into one, and then placed the golden ball on the altar built with a whole piece of amethyst in the middle of the room. In an instant, the whole room radiated a blue light, and a large number of complex golden runes appeared from the metal walls. Hermione had a feeling that the house in front of her seemed to be alive. Okay, the first cornerstone of the magic tower has been laid. Ryan pulled Hermione to the front of the house at this moment, and the room showed a gap that could accommodate 2 people in and out, letting them both in www.mtlnovel.com. When they entered the room, the passage just disappeared again, and the whole room was restored to a unified state. But although the room has no doors and windows, it is filled with soft light. This light comes from the 4 walls, floor, and ceiling of the room. Walls, ceilings and floors are now densely covered with various runes composed of golden light, magic circles and mysterious patterns, and they light up the whole house. In addition to this, there is almost nothing in the room. Only a 3-layer round amethyst altar with a height of 1 person is placed in the center of the floor, and the golden ball as the core of energy is now suspended in silence about 1 meter above the altar. Next, we need to float this room 20 meters above the ground, and then start construction from the lower half of the City of Sky. After Ryan made a gesture, a rune on the golden ball lit up. Hermione immediately felt that the floor beneath her feet began to rise slowly, just like sitting in an ascending elevator. For the next 7 months, Ryan and their help, with the help of tens of thousands of puppets and robots, a floating castle was built little by little. This castle has all the things that a magic tower should have, such as a magic garden, a laboratory, a blast room, a library, a discovery room, and a workroom. In addition, this magic castle also has its own artificial intelligence. Now we can go back. Looking at this dark blue roof floating in the sky, the white wall looks like a castle coming out of a fairy tale. Ryan said to Hermione, who was standing next to him, "It must be said that the gifts we got on our Christmas trip are really great." Chapter 711, Go to the Hospital. This time Ryan got a 55-point offset, which is not a lot in terms of quantity. After all, even though they changed a lot of plots this time, but because the world level is not very high, the upper limit of the points they can get is not high. But for him, this trip was very worthwhile. During this trip, he not only relaxed his mood but also harvested an important thing, a magic tower belonging to him. Know that for the caster, whether they have their own magic tower, strength is completely 2 grades. After returning to his manor, Ryan and Hermione first summoned their wings, and then moved to the Atlantic Ocean in the west of Ireland, which was passed by the last time to ambush and hunt down Lucius Malfoy. There is no one near here. After 2 people flew in a circle, they confirmed that there was no one above the sea. After all, this place is far from the human settlement and the route of the sea boat. Basically, no one will choose to come to this place. If there is no one, we can summon our floating castle now. Ryan nodded after hearing Hermione's words, and then opened the space door to summon the city in the air that was already invisible. No matter how many times I have seen it, this castle is so magnificent. Hermione whispered over the castle overlooking the miracle of floating in the air. As a master of the castle, Hermione was able to stay in the castle. See it in stealth as usual. I believe this castle can now bring unprecedented changes here. Okay, don't sigh. Ryan waved her hand to greet Hermione and he fell to the fountain in the central patio of the castle, and then said to the sky, The city of the sky is now heading towards our manor location, height 800 meter. Understood. A mechanical sound was heard from all around, then the ground gave a slight shock, and the whole floating castle began to fly over the manor in the north of England. How long does it take to fly? Hermione turned around and asked Ryan, who was standing beside him, looking at the white clouds that were rushing back toward the sky. Isn't the castle flying fast? At least much slower than during the test. Of course it's much slower. Ryan also looked up at the clouds in the sky and said, if you move at high speed, the concealment of the castle can't be guaranteed. That's why I don't use the space jump in the castle. The reason. After all, I plan to use this castle to surprise the mysterious people, if they are discovered in advance. The effect may not be so good. Of course, we don't have to fly back and forth with the castle all the time, Ryan explained as he looked at Hermione's suddenly depressed expression. Now it's enough for us to directly move the Phantom back, and the intelligence system on this castle can definitely fly the entire castle back safely. If that's the case, it would be great. Hermione seemed a little happy at once. Let us go back now. After all, at noon today we will send a batch of pharmacy to Hogsmeade Magic Hospital to help Neville's parents check up. By the way, you think we can cure Neville's parents now? It's not easy to say, Lionank said after thinking for a moment. Mainly we don't know the specific situation of the Longbottons, but from the point of view that the drugs used for emergency rescue and nourishing souls can play a large role. This time, even if they cannot be completely healed, they should be able to greatly improve their condition so that they can acquire normal self-care ability. It would be great if this was the case. Hermione nodded. Yes, when will we visit him about the person who secretly gave us that book before? Just tonight. Lane quickly made a decision. I will go after dinner tonight, just to give them a surprise when they are unprepared for Christmas. You were talking about them, not him? Hermione suddenly heard something different from Ryan's words. Is it a few people splitting up this time? Yes, I suspect that sending this letter to us is a collective action of several people. Even these people are a family. Lane nodded. Because when I built a floating castle and took a break, I bored and compared the writing left on the book and the letter on the letter are actually from the hands of two people, but from the ink you will find the words written in these two places. It was written within 3 days. What you said makes sense. Hermione raised her hand and touched her chin. After all, this matter is a secret contact with us. In some ways, it is a serious betrayal of the mysterious person. If there is companions' words are estimated to be only trusted by family members. After confirming that the artificial intelligence in the castle is functioning properly, the two phantoms returned to the manor. After that, until the time for lunch, both of them stayed together in the laboratory, disposing various soul-related medicines. Until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the two talents walked out of the laboratory tiredly. At this time, more than 30 kinds of soul-specific medicines have been put into their space, all of which have been readjusted based on various data summarized by people who have been tortured by the heart-draining curse before. Hope to heal the long-term injuries caused by the Longbottons. After lunch in a hurry, the two illusions went to Hogsmeade. After checking into the town, Lane discovered that the town was quiet, and only 1 or 2 people hurried by on the street. After all, today is Christmas. Like the Chinese New Year in the East, it is the day of family reunion. Most people stay at this time with their loved ones. The snow in Hogsmeade was so heavy last night that even today the weather is clear. The ground is still thick with snow. Ryan and Hermione walked hand in hand along the road towards Hogsmeade Magic Hospital, leaving behind 2 trails of huddled footprints. Hogsmeade Magic Hospital is located between the post office and the 3 broom bars. It is a newly built 3-story building that looks like a concave word from the air. A small garden was built in the open space in the middle of the building, and several benches were placed around the garden. This is like a hospital, Hermione said while looking at the garden and the bench. I used to think that Street Mungo felt too depressing. All the wards were all indoor. It was really not conducive to recovery. It's also difficult to open a hospital with a garden in downtown London, Lane said. Besides, for wizards, most injuries can be treated quickly. Those who really need to stay in hospital for a long time are not many. 2 people discussed about the medical treatment of the wizards and walked into the magic hospital. At this time, Milim, who had begun to remember, had already waited for them in the hall. www.mtlnovel.com is the no pregnancy leave in the magic world. Hermione asked Milim, who was not as sensitive as before when she walked. I think you should go to rest now, not work here. Wizards will be on holiday in this situation, and even for the wizards who are expecting newborns, the maternity welfare is much better than moles. But now this place is understaffed, and I can't give up these patients, Liam said with a motherly smile. After all, my work is different from that of Mrs. Lupin. Even if she is pregnant, she can still work normally. In fact, now Mrs. Lupin is working as an assistant in the hospital to help treat the wizards who have been hurt by the curse. You know, Araz, he has received special training in this area and is able to complete such work. As they spoke, they passed the security check in the lobby, and then took the elevator to the wards upstairs for patients who needed long hospital stays. As I walked along the way, Lane discovered that the design of the entire hospital looked more like the Muzz Hospital. It may have been the curious gaze when Ryan and Hermione looked to the left and right, and Melm explained, This should look like the hospitals outside, because the therapists who come here are basically hemp seeds or they are half-breed wizards, so they design their hospitals with their own habits. It's okay, I think it's fine. Hermione looked at Ryan with a smile after she finished. Ryan knew that she was happy now because she saw that the status of the hemp wizards had indeed improved, proving that everyone's previous plans were real. Achieved results. Chapter 712, Response and Pharmacy. Like San Mungo, the patients who need long-term care here also live on the top floor of the hospital. There is also a gate to isolate the ward to prevent those patients from running out of danger. Withdrew his wand and opened the door of the ward. Milim took them into the ward. The walls on both sides of the ward are beige. According to her previous statement on the road, this was proposed by several therapists. They believe that this color can help the patient's spirit to be more stable. The innermost part of the corridor is a ward belonging to the Longbottoms. After entering the door, Ryan discovered that this ward was very different from the one in San Mungo. The Holy One is a pure ward. There is nothing more than a bed and a bedside table. Now this ward looks more like a hotel, with tables and chairs besides the beds, and Christmas decorations everywhere. It seems to be more suitable for people to live than the cold room. It's much more here now than it was in the past, Milim said. So the environment we provide to patients is much better than in the past. Like in the past in San Mungo. Because there was not enough space to expand. The patients can only it's packed like a sardine in a net. Because they had just finished eating at noon, the Longbottom couple in pajamas are now sitting quietly on the wooden chairs on both sides of the coffee table eating their own dessert, a small piece of cake filled with canned fruits. In a small incense burner under the coffee table, there was a ray of green smoke, which filled the room with a light, citrus-like aroma. We gave them the medicines you sent before, and now they are much better than they used to be. At least this week they have not been as hysterical as they were in the past, yelling. Nor did they suddenly wake up in the middle of the night and hide under the bed. Marian introduced. In short, they are now much quieter than before, and their health is much better. After hearing the words, the Longbottoms raised their heads with their hands holding small cakes together, and then looked at Ryan and Hermione who were standing behind the Millennium therapist with a curious look. After they raised their heads, Hermione's strength in holding Ryan's hand increased. Because the two people in front of them look very thin, so their eyes look very big. In addition, the two people's hair is already white, and it looks messy and dry, like weeds in winter. What are they? Hermione had seen the previous photos of the Phoenix Society from Sirius. There was really no way to connect the two people in front of them with the two round and happy faces in the photos at that time. Damages on the soul often affect, especially black magic like the heart drill. Lane explained, the sequelae of this black magic lasted for more than 10 years, and their natural body will not be too good. It's much better than it was in the past. Milim explained to Ryan and they said, in the past, their spirits have been in tension and exhaustion, but now they are much better. Just because their bodies are full for more than 10 years after being tortured by black magic, it looks like this, so for safety reasons, we can only use some very gentle tonic to supplement those weak places on their body. Of course, like this, have a good meal every day and sleep well. I believe they only need more than a month and up to 2 months, and all the previous deficiencies in the body will be repaired back. Milim concluded. It's really good news. A smile also appeared on Hermione's face. Okay, let me check them now. What is they to do now? After putting the last bite of cake in her mouth, Mrs. Longbottom slightly tilted her head and looked at Ryan, and then the words were as if they were just the child who learned to speak asked. Observed. Milim said softly like coaxing a child. The two of them are the people I found to relieve your discomfort. Those who used to drink the very comfortable potions that cool your head and the spices that burn you to sleep are the same. Oh, this is it. Mrs. Longbottom put her hands on her knees like a child, and her back was straight. Seeing this scene, Mr. Longbottom beside her hurriedly ate the cake and wiped his mouth with his sleeves, and then sat on the chair as well. Okay, don't move. Hermione probably understood the situation now, and she stepped forward to calm the two patients with a coaxing tone, and at the same time slowly pulled out her wand with some exaggerated movements. Relax, it doesn't hurt at all. After appeasing the two patients, Hermione first waved her wand and summoned a stool from under the cabinet to sit in front of the Longbottoms. Then she meditated on the spell and released a filament of blood-red smoke from the head of the wand, and then directed the blood-red filament wound around the bodies of the two people in a circle. As a major life cycle spell, Hermione has more advantages than Lion in the face of soul damage, whether it is diagnosis or treatment. This is why the current inspection is entirely hosted by Hermione rather than the higher-rank Tryon. How is it going? After watching the red threads disappear from the two patients, Ryan turned to look at Hermione, who was more relaxed than before, and asked, are they likely to be cured? Yes, but here, Hermione twitched, and then lowered her voice to say, they have been traumatized for too long. So many memories have been permanently and completely lost. Even if we do our best to treat it, it will be difficult to fully restore the past. Can I restore some of my memory? Ryan's eyes widened in surprise. This is much stronger than he expected. He thought that serious injuries like this would be able to restore daily self-care ability, but he did not expect to be able to do better. Out of curiosity, Ryan asked, how much memory can this part have? between percent. Hermione closed her eyes and thought for a while, and there is no way to choose which part of the memory is recalled, but in any case, this is better than completely forgetting everything like this now. You are right. Ryan nodded slightly. Self-cognition is indeed very important for a person. Okay, let's start the next treatment. Which one of the medicines you prepared before is more appropriate now? None of them. Hermione said www.mtlnovel.com. But if you combine the duration of potion number 3 with the strength of potion number 7, then let them release the same effect as potion number 2. If it tests gentle, I think it tests perfectly appropriate. It sounds not too difficult. After Ryan finished looking at Milim. Yes, Miss Milim, may I ask where there is a place where I can dispense medicine? I think I need to make a batch of truly suitable elixir. Soon, Milim found an empty house for them. Only half an hour later, the targeted potions formulated with the potions on hand were successfully manufactured. Is this potion very complicated? Hermione, who watched the whole process of potion production and helped inject some soul energy, asked curiously. I think you just summoned the Virgin Rose and used a very complicated alchemy technique. It's not very complicated, Ryan said, holding a large bottle of transparent ice blue potion with a quiet breath in his hand. The main reason is that the use of the Virgin Rose will be faster and more convenient for me. When I use magical props when making potions, I mainly have to consider the need for large-scale production in the future, so I must summarize it. A set of solutions suitable for others to use. Now, this kind of medicament is mainly customized for a certain person. Since I don't need to consider letting others learn, I naturally do it in the most convenient way. Ryan finally summarized and explained, and then took the medicine bottle to the door. Go. Okay, give these medicines to Miss Milim. According to my judgment, as long as they continue to take the Longbottom couple for a month, they should be able to get rid of such a bad state. Chapter 713, Visit at Night. After explaining the usage and dosage of the Melanum therapist, Lane left Hogsmeade's hospital. Just as the two of them walked out of the hospital gate, an owl flew over and dropped a letter to them. It wouldn't be the sneaky guy last time, Hermione asked subconsciously while looking at the envelope in Ryan's hand. Can it be so rash to do this kind of secret work? Even if the mysterious person is seriously damaged, it's not as cunning as before, but it should be difficult for Mango and his eyes to be so densely connected. No. Of course not. Ryan gave Hermione a glance at the envelope. This was sent by Neville to us. Miss Milim should have written a letter to him while we were treating. After speaking, Ryan opened the envelope and found that the letter was very simple. In addition to the normal head and end on a whole piece of parchment, in the middle of the parchment just wrote a word with an oversized letter, "Thank you." However, the paper and the tears left on the paper that were scratched due to excessive force can tell how excited Neville was when writing this thing. As a hero, they have such a terrible ending. Hermione sighed with emotion after leaning with Ryan and reading the parchment with him. We are only doing what we should do now. Okay, now you can tell me who was the one who sent us that anonymous letter and then sent us a fairy tale book of wizards. After returning to his manor, Hermione couldn't bear it. Asked the inner curiosity. Since we are going to find them at night, you should tell me who is the one behind the scenes. Okay, since Hermione asked, Ryan told the truth about her previous findings. According to my previous tracking, I found that the person who left the book last appeared near a manor of the Greengrass family. Greengrass, why are they? Hermione asked strangely. If I remember correctly, the Greengrass family is more noble than the Malfoy family according to the pureblood wizards. It is one of the top 28 holy families in Britain. I can hardly believe them will choose to fall back to us at this time. I also feel a little strange. Lane shrugged. But the evidence I have is pointing to the facts. To further understand what happened, I think we can only go to them and ask them specifically tonight. At more than 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the City of the Sky successfully reached the sky near their estate in Lane. After carefully checking the current situation of the City of Sky and turning on the full defense, the two of them flew away from the magic castle in the sky with the wings of a group of puppet patrols. The feeling of flying wings in the sky is simply great. Yes, ask you a question. Why don't we kill the mysterious people now? On the way back to the manor, Hermione asked through the Phoenix imprint too. I think if your strength is added to this sky city, even a mysterious person can't resist it. You're right, Lane replied. But since the last time the mysterious man nearly got killed by the Principal Dumbledore after he was dragged by me during the attack on Hogsmeade, I never showed up in public again. It is very difficult to find out if a wizard like a mysterious person wants to hide himself. Just like when we ran to attack before, they could not take us same. So, it depends on our luck next. Hermione sighed softly. We must find a battlefield where the mysterious man cannot leave within a short time, and then summon the Sky City to give him a fatal blow. But this also means that in the subsequent battles, we must be cautious when using the Sky City to ensure this the intelligence of the city will not appear in the hands of the mysterious man. That means it's not necessary. Once used, make sure those witnesses can't tell the news, right? Ryan summarized Hermione's suggestion, if she couldn't come up with such a plan a few years ago. But after experiencing so many battles and Ryan's conscious guidance, the current Hermione can be said to be completely different from her original. Yes, Hermione said, looking a little unhappy. This war forced us sometimes to take some extreme measures to guarantee the victory of the war. But for a fairer and more energetic new world, I believe all this is worth it. You are right. This war is not just a war against justice over evil, it is also a war that belongs to us. In order to achieve our purpose, we always have to bear more than others. Lane finally concluded. After sitting for a while after dinner, Ryan and they went back to the room to rest. Until 11:30 in the evening, the two talents opened their eyes on time from the bed, and then got up to pack up their travel equipment. Both people wore a set of leather armor that had been repeatedly strengthened by alchemy tonight, with various magic props on their bodies. After all, they weren't going to visit other people's homes tonight, but just sneaking in secret. It is even possible that the entire event was a conspiracy, and there would be a large group of Death Eaters and even Voldemort himself waiting for them. So both of them chose costumes suitable for fighting. Let's go. After confirming that both Hermione and herself were packed, Ryan took Hermione's hand and disapparated. After a snapping sound, the two appeared on a small hill back more than 10 meters high. Through the night vision ability that the body strengthened many times before, the two found that the mountain was a piece of emerald green grass like a carpet, and the manor stands in the middle of the grass. No wonder their surname is Greengrass. Hermione whispered as she looked at the vast green grass below the mountain that was rare even in Britain. Did we just walk in like this? Of course. Lane gave her a positive answer. Malfoy told us the specific location of the Greengrass family estate before, and the reason why we didn't directly teleport in, but chose to show up at the guest entrance of this estate. www.mplnovel.com is to show our kind attitude. An attitude willing to negotiate. Aren't our goals necessary to destroy the dominance of the pureblood families that occupy all aspects of the wizarding world in Britain? Now that we clearly have the decisive power, why should we pull them in? As she walked towards the green grass estate, Hermione asked her own question. There are several ways to destroy the dominance. Thorough cleansing is a means rather than an end. Ryan smiled awkwardly, and he began to wonder if he had left Hermione white when he saw Harry Potter in his previous life. The tendency is more disgusting, so after seeing a real person in this life, he subconsciously reversed Hermione's ideas, and now it seems that it is a bit overkill. Especially coupled with the stubborn character that Hermione herself has, this has caused her to be more radical when she is dealing with problems under the premise of efficiency first. For example, now, she tends to eliminate the various problems caused by those pureblood families from the most basic way through fixed point removal, because this is the most efficient. Well, you are right. Hermione nodded. I believe you can successfully control the situation. Of course I am confident to control the situation. After all, this war will take some time to end. I believe that before the end of the war, we can threaten these pureblood by weakening the power of the pureblood family and increasing the power of the Maison wizards to the lowest degree, Lane said firmly. Chapter 714, Meet. The distance from the hill where the guests settled was not far from the manor. Just 5 minutes later, the two of them crossed the large grass and came to the green grass manor. The first thing that caught their eyes was a bronze-gilt gate, decorated with a large number of exquisite reliefs. When the two of them were close to the gate, a man who looked like a mighty wizard on the relief turned his head and looked at both of them. Visitor, tell your name and the purpose of coming here. A voice of a middle-aged man with a little magnetism came out of the mouth of the relief, although the voice did not fluctuate much, like those common artificial smart. But the sound chosen by the room owner can still make people feel good. Just showed friendship. Now it's time to show our power. Ryan smiled at Hermione, and then pressed the pink light outward right hand on the gate. After only a few seconds, the relief face there was a smile. Ah, distinguished guests coming from afar, please come in. I have notified the host that he will greet you in the living room. Don't look at me, we are not here to raid, naturally we have to notify the host to welcome. Ryan explained to Hermione, who turned her head suddenly and looked at her, whispering. In the alert state, you can jump through the space at any time. Even if there is a mysterious person hidden in the green grass house, we don't need to worry. Lane just finished explaining, and the door opened inward with a creak. Behind the door is a French garden with shrubs cut into various geometric shapes and animal shapes. In the middle of the garden is a fountain with a sculpture of a girl holding a water bottle. A clear spring spouted upwards from the mouth of the water bottle in the girl's hand, forming the image of a flower in the sky, and finally fell into the pool, making the sound of ding-ding-dong-dong like music. Behind the garden, a 3-story beige building that is not very large stands there. The bronze roof has become greenish-green due to long-term oxidation, but it looks very harmonious with this beige building. After approaching, they discovered that each column had a complex and exquisite gilded sculpture, which decorated the whole building. It feels that it is much stronger than the Malfoy Manor. As a wizard, Hermione does not judge a building solely on the surface. However, after entering the manor, Hermione in the state of preparation can feel that there are a large number of exquisitely designed magical institutions protecting it. If compared with the Malfoy Manor, in general, the Malfoy Manor has the number of defense systems very good, but the quality is still worse. This is normal, Lane whispered. Don't forget that the Greengrass family is one of the 28 oldest blood-blooded families in the British magic world, and the Malfoy family is just an upstart from France. So many times even the Malfoy family is among the best in the British magic world. Money, but some things are still unavailable. Stepped on the hard and smooth black marble steps, Ryan and they came to a brown-red door. But he hadn't knocked on the door yet. The heavy door was opened like that, and a house elf who looked only a little bit more mature than that appeared. Welcome, welcome to noble guests to Greengrass Manor. After the door was completely opened, the house elf bowed deeply, and his nose seemed to touch the floor. Then she raised her hand and made a gesture of motion, instructing Ryan to follow him, and said in a sharp but not loud voice, "Mr. William is waiting for you in the reception room. The ladies are asleep, so please be quiet." After saying that, the house elves took Ryan. They turned around and walked into a hallway that seemed to be rarely used. Like the Malfoy Manor, there is also a gorgeous carpet on the stone floor. However, unlike the silver-green decoration style of Sirius or the Malfoy family, the colors here are mainly blue, white and yellow, and there is no such gloomy feeling. Maybe for safety reasons, so Mr. William, the owner of Greengrass, opened a room that was rarely used. So on this way, Ryan even found that there is no such kind of portrait that the pureblood wizard family often has. "Sir, I've brought the guests." Walking to the end of the corridor, the house elf of the Greengrass family said to a brown door, and soon a bit tired was heard inside the voice of a middle-aged man. "Okay, Carrie. Do your business. Don't come over until I call you." "Yes, sir." Carrie bowed and disappeared into the thin air with a snap. At the same time, the door at the end of the corridor opened silently. Ryan took Hermione into this reception room. This is a small room with a small interior area but a very delicate interior. A blonde middle-aged man is now sitting on a red velvet high-back chair by the fireplace. After seeing Ryan and them coming in, he extended his finger and made a welcoming gesture to the couch opposite the coffee table in front of him, beckoning him and Hermione to sit down. After sitting down, they didn't say a word. Watching William Greengrass made 3 cups of black tea, and then handed them 2 cups, and took 1 cup in their hands. In the next few minutes, the whole house was in a strange silence. Only the occasional sound of tea drinking and the light collision of cups and saucers kept the room quiet. Finally, as the owner of Greengrass, William Greengrass could not support it first. He lowered the cup in his hand and broke the silence in the room. "I really didn't expect that you would find me in such a short time." "It's nothing remarkable." Ryan also put down the teacup and said, although at first he won a game with the other party's eagerness. But in the face of the head of this pureblood family, Lane did not dare to have any slack. "Don't forget, I can deal with that person directly. The traces you left are enough for me." "You are right." www.mplnovel.com. William nodded after a brief silence. "That's why I chose to disclose this news to you, because only you and Dumbledore can block it." The Dark Lord's next move. "But compared to Dumbledore, I am more willing to deal with you. Is it because I am younger, which is better to cheat?" Ryan said with a proud expression, but unexpectedly, the Greengrass host opposite him did not show an angry or embarrassed expression, but stated in a very plain tone, "No, I will not deceive you." William shook his head. "For a wizard, power is everything. Deceiving a wizard of your level is equivalent to bringing me and my family endless scourge, so I won't do it." William Greengrass knew that he had to give Ryan an explanation today, otherwise Ryan would never believe what he said next. So after explaining that he was by no means deceiving, he explained, "You and Dumbledore are completely different. The principal will tell him to sacrifice anyone for the purpose of justice, even including himself. There are many things about the last war in my family. The information shows this, and you are different. You are willing to shelter those who have taken refuge in you. For example, the Malfoy family. Even if the Dark Lord wants to kill them, they still can't take it." On the other hand, Mr. Greengrass said that he paused here for a few seconds, and then said very frankly, "You were scared by the people who were involved in the killing of Muzz before. A very important purpose is to keep my family and my family." Chapter 715, Force. "No, Mr. Greengrass." Ryan put the teacup lightly on the countertop inlaid with lapis lazuli, then straightened up and looked at the tired Greengrass owner. "The reasons you just said should be true, but they do not represent all the reasons. At least in my opinion. People who are on the side of the mysterious person now have the reasons you just said, but only you make now the choice. This shows that you must have something more important, which is your own unique reason. At least for pureblood wizards like you. These 2 reasons alone are not enough." Lane stopped Mr. Greengrass, who wanted to defend. "Everyone is afraid of death. But after reading my attitude towards the Malfoy family, you should know that the person I sheltered must surrender to me in public, which means that if I choose me, I will be chased by the mysterious person, from in a way. This is no safer than it is now. And if you contact me now and this is discovered by the mysterious person, 100% of the family will be killed. And in the previous battle, even if I killed the Death Eaters, I let their relatives go. From a certain perspective, it's safer to say that it's safer for you to follow mysterious talents if you want to preserve the family. So it's hard for me to believe the reason you told me." "You're right." Greengrass sighed softly and gave up his defense. He had originally looked at Ryan young, trying to conceal his unfavorable status quo. "See if you can use your family as a bargaining chip." "What? but it seems that this kind of cleverness is useless. So in order not to be self-defeating, Greengrass simply admitted that he had deliberately omitted. Well, I think you should know what happened before the Grab and Gower families. Of course I know. Hermione nodded. We killed the heads of the two families in the battle a while ago, and then heard that the mysterious people assigned their wives and families to the two black wizard leaders from Eastern Europe. Yes, that's it. Mr. Greengrass nodded bitterly. I just did not tell the truth. That is for us. The survival of the family is far more important than personal life and death, so I am not afraid of death. But now, the Dark Lord's order is destroying my family. I have already hinted in the children's literature that remained in Hogsmeade. The Dark Lord was found the legendary jumping pot and intends to reverse the magic on the jumping pot and use the characteristics of this treasure to contaminate it once. A lot of muzz are used to make corpses, and I will perform this dangerous task as an executor of this operation. If you die in this way, I don't think you can escape our pursuit. Ryan said loudly. You should find that the wizards we killed before were all indiscriminate killing of innocent people, and you this time it is just in line with this. Yes, of course I know this. Greengrass nodded. The reason why I reported to you was because the Dark Lord assigned my two daughters a husband from Eastern Europe and asked them married within the last 2 months. After I die, my two daughters will marry others, and the Greengrass family will disappear in this world forever. Like Grab and Gowers know, it should be even worse. Ryan could understand why Greengrass found himself in a hurry this time. Once he died, the two designated sons-in-law will surely devour everything from the Greengrass family. Then this ancient family, which was listed as a tribute to the sacred 28 family, has since disappeared in history. It reminded Ryan why after the war in the original text, Malfoy married his young daughter Astoria. It was estimated that Daphne, the eldest daughter of the Greengrass family, was likely to choose a son-in-law in marriage to maintain the existence of the family. It's terrible, Hermione whispered through the Phoenix brand. She had dealt with the eldest daughter of the Greengrass family when she was studying in the 2nd grade. There is no such kind of crossbow between the hempseed wizard. At that time Daphne told me that she had a good dad, but she didn't expect to be so cold-blooded. No matter whether it is magic or not, noble marriages will not take affection as the main consideration as we do. Their core is interest. Lane also replied silently through the branding of Phoenix. Think about his death a few months ago. Princess Diana, for them. The weight of love in marriage can even be ignored. After answering Hermione's inner question, Ryan looked at Mr. Greengrass and said, now that I know of the attack, then I will definitely stop it. Given that you have ventilated us, we will naturally let you go, and I promise not to tell anyone what happened tonight, and even Professor Dumbledore will not tell him. Yes, yes. Mr. Greengrass opened his eyes wide. What Ryan did now was completely beyond his expectations. Originally, he wanted to let Ryan provide him with some protection by providing information this time, but he did not expect only obtained a promise not to be hunted down. This kind of commitment is totally meaningless to William Greengrass. After all, it is not only him who is involved in ritual magic. When Ryan kills all the others and only leaves him. Even if the mysterious person is much worse than before after the soul is sliced, it should be able to see the problem. Before Greengrass felt that as one of the Holy 28 families standing at the top of the British magic world, his surrender should be very important. In theory, Ryan will try to keep him safe. But I didn't expect Ryan to take it as their footsteps. They didn't care whether they were dead or alive. Don't be excited, sir. Ryan waved his right hand slightly as he looked at Greengrass, who reached into his pocket. For a moment, several magic circles that started to work appeared on the wall of this house, pointing at Greengrass. You can only get this for what you pay. Like I just said, www.mtlnovel.com. The person I sheltered must necessarily openly trust me. If I don't want to trust, I won't force anyone, but how much they do depends entirely on how much they have paid. Greengrass made a mistake. Ryan did not do his best to defeat Voldemort as Dumbledore did. Instead, he hoped that this war would permanently destroy the dominance of these pureblood families in the British magic world. Under such circumstances, the pureblood family can be said to be their enemies. How could Ryan spend a lot of money to attract them? Okay. Greengrass slowly pulled out his empty palm from his pocket and slowly placed it on his knee. The whole person looked a lot older, and when Ryan took control of all the defensive magic in the whole house and pointed at him for a moment, Mr. Greengrass knew that everything he had today was miscalculated. He originally thought that Ryan was a sense of justice, a jealous hero or a nerdy researcher. This is normal for a young man. But unexpectedly, Ryan was completely different from what he imagined. You have to know that I still have 2 daughters, of which Daphne has also been to Brazil with you, Mr. Greengrass said in a tone of prayer, but was interrupted by Ryan's plain words. I'm sorry to hear such things, but as a member of a pureblood family, you also have to pay the price while enjoying the benefits. But for the sake of classmates, if they really encounter misfortune because of you, I promise every year they wear black dresses and white carnations to see them. Chapter 716, Conspiracy. Finally, under the witness of Hermione, Mr. Greengrass, who was helpless, could only swear allegiance to Ryan through an ancient magic oath. Ryan promised to protect their safety and ensure that they would not intervene in his family's affairs under normal circumstances. As a sincere surrender, Greengrass specially took a large amount of information from the family's secret room and handed it over to Ryan. Fortunately, Ryan had no interest in the few peculiar bloodline magics of their family, which made him relieved for a long time. In fact, the Malfoy family also surrendered all their inheritance except bloodline magic at the time, which was also the most important prerequisite for Ryan to ask them to swear. As for bloodline magic, which is regarded by the pureblood family as the core, Ryan does not care. Right for him, everything that can't be used universally doesn't make much sense. The knowledge they taught the gorillas when they attacked the gorillas before, except for a small part specially prepared by Ryan, all the rest was obtained after the optimization of the casting skills from the pureblood family. After all, the magic that Ryan owns comes from multiple worlds. For the wizards of this world, there will be some difficulties in learning, and the knowledge from pureblood will not have the learning difficulties caused by the cultural differences of different worlds. So now those Ryan and their followers mainly learn from the optimized part of the pureblood family knowledge. Why are you opening the Greengrass family network? After getting all the information he has from Mr. Greengrass, they returned to their estate. Hermione asked her in a question as soon as she returned home. Tonight we can completely kill him and torture his soul. Then, even if we wiped out all the pureblood families on the side of the Death Eaters, the situation of the hemp wizards would at most improve, but absolutely no real equality could be achieved. Don't forget that there are pure people on our side. Blood Wizard. Ryan said that he thought of the Weasley family. In the original text, the Weasley family became the biggest winner after the war. When Ryan was a child, when he read a novel, he felt that justice defeated evil, but now think about it is actually equivalent to a pureblood family replacing another pureblood family from the perspective of the ending. The hemp seed wizard does get some benefits, but the social structure does not change. Everything is not much different from the past. So that's why he wanted to leave a pureblood family like Malfoy or Greengrass, a controllable, but apparently a family of pureblood wizards who are on their own side in this war. After the war, let the pureblood families check each other, leaving room for the hemp wizards that should belong to them. After explaining, Hermione nodded slightly to show her understanding. Then the two went to the study room to make a pot of tea, preparing to analyze the information they had obtained from Mr. Greengrass overnight. The only source of our information about Leaping Pot is from this fairy tale book, Ryan said, taking out the previous book and turning to the story of Leaping Pot, then pointed to one of the thoughts. In the rest of the week, no more villagers will come to the wizard's house to ask for help, but the Crucible still keeps telling their patients about it. In just a few days, it not only screamed and groaned, tossing tears while jumping, sarcoma, coughing and retching, crying like a baby, wailing like a dog, spitting bad cheese and sour milk, and countless hungry slugs. That is to say, this magic pot can gather all these bad things around itself and then reveal it. After listening to the passage that Ryan read, Hermione was keenly aware of the horror of this conspiracy. If, according to Greengrass, the effect is reversed, if the effect is reversed, it means that as long as you put some targeted potions in this pot, all people around you can be affected by the action of the potions at the same time. As an alchemist master, Ryan easily inferred the specific function of this alchemy prop. For example, after placing a special poison in the pot, you can transform everyone around you into a corpse. And most importantly, if you want to infect as many people as possible and spread it over a wider area, then the magic power spread over each person's head will not be too much. In this way, the magic wizard will not make a move, and ordinary people who don't have magic power in their bodies will suffer bad luck. This is in line with the slogan of the Southern group of people to remove dirty blood. So we have to stop this, Hermione concluded. By the way, do we need to notify Principal Dumbledore? I think Mr. Principal will provide us with some help if he knows this. No need. Lane thought about whether he had rejected the proposal. Greengrass said earlier that the mysterious man would choose a location in the north for a raid at this time. In case Professor Dumbledore weakened our defense, I believe that the mysterious man would definitely change the pretentious attack in the plan. If you become a strong attacker, it won't make a difference if we lose too much. Of course, in order to avoid what the other party is doing in this operation, I will do enough preparations. Lane saw Hermione a little uneasy, so comforted. Anyway, according to Mr. Greengrass, this operation will start on January 13th, and we have nearly half a month to prepare for it, which is enough. Unfortunately, even he didn't know where the mysterious man would be. This magic ceremony was arranged. We can only know the signal he left from his wife when he left the house to start acting. Hermione looked a little bit sorry to say. This is very in line with the character of the mysterious man. He will not tell others what to do at the last minute. Ryan shrugged. Of course, this may also be a small trick by Mr. Greengrass. He should be hopeful. Confirm that we have fulfilled our commitments, and our wife and children will only tell us after they have successfully moved to a safe place. This Hermione pressed her lips hard, and Ryan suddenly felt that she was acting like Professor McGonagall. But soon Hermione replied with her usual expression. Although I gave up a possible early detection opportunity, but I can understand his uneasiness as the first cooperation. But to be honest, these pureblood wizards are really too wary because they have to fight all their lives, not only the enemies who might threaten them, but also those friends who are still pushing their cups with them yesterday. Remember, every pureblood family that can survive today, it won't be that simple. Ryan raised his eyebrows and then recounted the fact in a slightly heavy tone. Draco Malfoy. Hermione frowned. www.mplnovel.com. When she talked about the pureblood family, she first thought of Malfoy, but the pureblood family in the narrative of Malfoy and Lane, it doesn't seem to be the same breed at all. Why does he look so naive? Because Malfoy doesn't belong to the core pureblood family, Ryan said. In the eyes of a true pureblood family, the Malfoy family is just an upstart. Don't forget that they never entered the Ministry of Magic, although they are, because the Malfoys are used to hiding behind the scenes and controlling everything. But from another perspective, it is not because they are excluded by others that they can't even enter the Ministry of Magic to control power. It makes sense for you to say that. Hermione nodded slightly and then asked, so, what about the Weasley family? Are they so good at calculating? No, of course not. Ryan shook his head gently, and then thought of the fact that the Principal Dumbledore pointed out in the 2nd grade in the original book. The Weasley family is one of the most prestigious pure wizards. I think that each family has its own way of survival. The one I just said is only suitable for most pureblood families. The Weasley family is an exception. They are so famous because they have enough people. I think there are only 3 people in the Malfoy family, and the Weasley family members we met at the last wedding were at least more than 100. According to Mrs. Weasley, not the entire population of the whole family. Many live in foreign countries. Family members did not come. That's good. Hermione patted her chest lightly. She didn't dare the Weasleys' harmony and friendliness. If it were just disguise, how bad the world would be. Chapter 717, Chaos is the Ladder. The Christmas holidays in the Wizarding world and the ordinary world in the UK are very long, generally around 3 weeks. But for Ryan, this Christmas holiday was exceptionally short, because on the 3rd day after the festival, Ryan rushed back out of Hogsmeade and joined the gorillas. You can actually stay a little longer at home, Ryan said after seeing a dozen gorillas have arrived at the meeting point in advance. After all, you have been fighting with us in various places for more than a month. You should be very tired. So I think you should take a good rest this Christmas and stay with your loved ones for a while. 3 days are enough. Bob, a young wizard who worked in Diagon Alley and second-hand bookstore before the war. Now if we take a short rest, then we can eliminate those enemies earlier. In this way, we will have enough time to be with our loved ones. Yes, he was right. That's how it was. After the young man finished, the rest of the gorillas also echoed. Watching the high morale of everyone, Ryan showed a satisfied smile. Relax. I will take you to victory in this war. After everyone calmed down, Ryan inspired everyone. We must be able to take back everything we lost in the war through our own hands. It may be because Voldemort is planning a big operation recently, or it may be because it is Christmas recently. Therefore, no attacks occurred during the past few days of Christmas. In this case, Ryan did not choose the same attack as before, but began to formally train this group of guerrillas. In the previous guerrilla warfare, Ryan had trained these guerrillas, but at that time, he mainly trained various combat abilities to improve their combat effectiveness in the shortest time. And now, Ryan took them collectively to his manor to prepare for a short system training to make up for their previous shortcomings. With Ryan's cautious character, he used his manor as a key place before and kept this place in a hidden state. But now that he has his own flying castle, he has moved most of his important things from the manor into the flying castle, and after screening, he is believed to be a reliable person to open his manor. In the 10 days after, these guerrillas took out a dozen or so confirmed former joke shop employees who came later to undergo strict closed training together. In the test on the first day after entering the manor, Ryan found that the problem of the unification of this group of people was that, except for a small number of people, most people had a very poor knowledge base in magic, and it was even terrible. Think about it too. Except for a few people in this group who entered the Ministry of Magic with excellent results, the academic level of other people is the same. Otherwise they will not be engaged in work similar to ordinary staff. Not to mention that because of the pressure of life and the knowledge blockade of the pureblood family, their strength not only did not improve after graduation, but declined a lot. Even most of the former joke shop employees now work in the Ministry of Magic, but this only shows that Ryan's training has played a part after they entered the job, and it does not mean that their current level has reached the level that Ryan hopes. In fact, this group of people is still a bit short of the regular Ministry of Magic staff. If there is no one at Hogsmeade, they will not get the position they are now. Fortunately, this problem of academic mastery is not very difficult to solve. With the help of potions and soul magic, Ryan let this group of people master a lot of important theoretical knowledge in just 1 day. It's really exhausting. Hermione complained when she slept at night. I instilled knowledge to more than 30 people in one breath. I also had to ensure that the recipient's memory did not have any problems when this knowledge was infused. Words are very challenging. Memory installation is mainly based on Hermione, and Ryan just helps her. After all, The power Hermione masters is more suitable for these things. Fortunately, Ryan designed a special magic array to greatly reduce Hermione's labor intensity. But okay, Hermione said after complaining. At least after this memory-instilled spells, I can be sure that they are now absolutely faithful and reliable, and we can proceed normally with the next move. You checked their memories today? Hermione uttered the sentence and Ryan immediately realized what was happening, so he quickly asked. How? You haven't been caught by your movements? Of course it was not found by anyone. You know, I just investigated their ideas and did not modify them. Following a burst of friction, Hermione turned her face to Ryan. I thought you would oppose my approach. Seriously, I don't quite support your practice today. But since you did, I must be on your side, Ryan said. And I can understand your thoughts. All our plans afterwards are based on enough supporters, and all you do today is to ensure that our supporters are true. Yes, Hermione admitted Ryan's inference. After all, the things we have to teach them are very precious even in the pureblood family. After the war, we will slowly generalize these things and make them daily so that they can become wizards. We can all learn knowledge. But now, we must confirm that these powers belong to those who have previously given strength and loyalty. You're right. Our dream is to build a fairer magical world. It's an unchangeable principle to pay as much as you want, and not to be different because of your identity. Speaking here, Ryan changed the topic. If you found someone unreliable today? It depends on the situation. Hermione replied. If I just don't want to be loyal just because of personal interests or ideas, I will make an excuse to give them another piece of knowledge that is commensurate with what they have done. Of course, this knowledge must be a certain gap from what loyalists learn. And if he is a bad-hearted person, I will give him enough punishment. Relax, I'm not that kind of evil witch. Hermione summed it up seriously. That's why I just looked at their ideas and didn't modify them. I still have a bottom line in doing things anyway, not that. A madman who tramples on everything for the purpose. Yes, I believe you, Ryan said. I didn't expect that we already have more than 30 followers, which also means that the weakest link in our plan has now been made up. Unlike the protagonist of Harry Potter who tried to change the world in his previous life, Ryan is much slower than others in transforming the magic world. www.mplnovel.com. This is not because of his strength problems, but he has suffered a lot from the birth condition. Britain is a class-oriented country, and wizards are no exception. It can even be said that wizards pay more attention to this aspect. Therefore, as a wizard of Mole background, he does not have a noble magic family background. It is impossible to affect the Ministry of Magic through his family, and then obtain sufficient resources. At the same time, he is not as popular as some protagonists in the novel, as Harry has become a Dumbledore's proud student, and has the favor of a big guy, and then obtain huge resources and connections. Therefore, he has kept a low profile before accumulating strength. After all, Ryan knew that without a follower, transforming the magic world was a simple joke. Fortunately, the wizard has one of the most basic principles is to respect the strong. Therefore, he has been going to various worlds to accumulate resources and strengthen himself for a long time before. It was not until this inevitable war broke out that he leapt through the war. Like the sentence in a book he read the previous life, chaos is the ladder. This war has brought Ryan unprecedented opportunities. It was at this time that Ryan noticed an additional benefit of finding Hermione as a lover. Hermione, like him, came from the Mole world, so he does not exclude Ryan's current plan to use chaos to achieve his goals. The other popular heroines in the previous life, such as Luna, Yangmou, Ginny, Penelope and even Pansadu, have an inextricable relationship with the magic world. They will definitely not support it as fully as Hermione. This plan to completely subvert the British magic world. Chapter 718. Pre-war plan. The next day, all the trainees got up early, and then started the movement under the leadership of Ryan and Hermione respectively. Even if the wizards use magical combat as their main means of combat, physical exercise is still indispensable. Fortunately, Ryan has enough resources, and with the support of money-burning tactics, he can improve the physical quality of these followers in a short time. At the same time, with the support of memory installation, high-intensity training will allow them to quickly master those spellcasting skills. I think the resources that each of us consume today can even catch up with those pureblood family heads who consume 1 month during training. After a hard day of training, at dinner, he served as the director at the former Fairy Liaison Office. Dirk Cressway told everyone about the value of the potions and various magic items provided by Ryan. Soul Stabilizer, a vial of 12 gallons. A potion-enhancing potion containing Ryan bovine blood, 20 gallons. The core is that all of these things are valuable and precious. Although he was a hemp wizard, he could not even use these things even if he was a ministry official. But in the process of interacting with his colleagues, he also knew the value of these things. So at dinner, he began to introduce the value of these things to his companions. Glory is loyalty. These Ryan and their followers whispered that they knew from the beginning why Ryan spent so much money on them, but as a hemp wizard and even a hybrid wizard who had been ignored before, they do not resent offering their loyalty. First of all, Ryan had a good reputation before and saved them from fire and water. They naturally will not exclude following such leaders. Secondly, Ryan is willing to provide them with the resources that they had always dreamed of but were always looking for, as the fringe figures of the magic world. In this case, the identity of a follower is naturally what they are after. Finally and most importantly, Ryan's goal of eliminating lineage discrimination and giving wizards equal opportunities is not just justice, but also talking about the hearts of wizards who have suffered because of lineage discrimination. This also makes them regard Ryan's goal as their own goal, which naturally makes them have a strong initiative in doing things. Therefore, although he was very bitter and tired in the following training, everyone insisted on it. This is true for young people who have just graduated, or for former employees who are 30 or 40 years old. At the same time, everyone's eyes are full of hope. After half a month of hard training, everyone successfully passed the end of training assessment. At the banquet in the evening, everyone asked about Ryan's next plan. You take a day off tomorrow, and then gather together the day after tomorrow to strengthen the defense of Hogsmeade. Ryan told everyone at the table. I have received reliable information that the mysterious man will launch a new round of attacks the day after tomorrow. But the only problem now is that I don't know the target of the enemy's specific actions. So what should we do? Someone asked. In this case we must do something, but now we don't know the enemy's action target. Where should we go? Personally suggest you go to Hogsmeade, Lane said. Because the mysterious person is likely to appear in this attack, I do not recommend that you act separately. The only place where you can facilitate collective action is the town of Hogsmeade. Of course, this is not to say that you are only considering your safety. Hermione added to seeing a few people with discouraged expressions, because Hogsmeade is the place with the most civilians in the place we want to protect. From a defensive perspective it is also the most difficult, and from another perspective, that place also needs you the most. Hermione's words are not perfunctory, because neither Hogwarts nor Azkaban are structures similar to magic strongholds. Defensively, it is much simpler to defend than the settlement of Hogsmeade. Of course, you don't have to worry too much if the mysterious man attacks Hogsmeade. As long as you can be confident and don't be afraid, you can drag the mysterious man for more than 10 minutes without injury. Principal Dumbledore is at Hogwarts Castle inside. It was enough time for him to come over. After discovering that everyone was still a little afraid of Voldemort, Ryan hurriedly encouraged everyone. After eating, Ryan and Hermione took these people away from the manor. It was only after watching all of their phantoms disappear in the doorway of the manor that they returned to the room together. How are you prepared for the day after tomorrow? Hermione asked after returning to the room. I haven't received any letters from Mr. Greengrass recently. I'm a little worried now. There is nothing to worry about this, Lane comforted. After all, the connection between him and us is secret, and this time the matter is so important. In this case, it is natural to have less contact. In short, no news is the best news at this time. Anyway, what we agreed at that time is that he will send us specific conditions at noon tomorrow. As long as he sends us a letter, it will be for security reasons before then. He has never contacted us is the best choice. Well, as long as everything is within our expectations. Hermione finished and flicked her hair. I'm going to bed now, and these 2 weeks of training are almost exhausting me. This fatigue does not only affect the body, but also the soul. Even with memory installation as the bottom, guiding 30 people at a stretch is a very complicated and difficult thing. After almost half a month of such work, Hermione felt a little unsustainable even if her body was strengthened. Of course, Ryan did not go easily. This also caused 2 people to get up at 10 o'clock in the morning the next morning. Fortunately, after a long sleep, their energy finally recovered, and they would not delay the acquired actions. At 12 noon, a wind chime hung in the dining room rang, and Ryan immediately phantom moved to the letter reception point. Sure enough, the roll of parchment with an index finger was placed there. This parchment roll is simply rolled together without the wax seal with a family badge commonly used by nobles. www.mcnovel.com. Not even an envelope. According to the method previously agreed with Mr. Greengrass, Ryan pulled out his wand and clicked on both ends of the wax seal, and then wrapped the parchment around the parchment with his wand head 3 times, and the parchment roll unfolded by itself. This is a little trick for sealing secret documents. If you don't open it correctly, the text on the parchment will disappear by yourself. Only 2 lines were written on the unfolded parchment. The above asked Ryan to go to Greengrass Estate to pick up his wife and 2 daughters in a safe place at 6:30 tomorrow afternoon. Ryan will be told the location of their magic ritual. It seems that Mr. Greengrass is still very wary. After reading the letter, he watched the words fade slowly until they disappeared. Lane said to himself, but for the first cooperation, such a big thing needs to be done, and Ryan can understand Mr. Greengrass's ideas. After returning to the manor, Lane told Hermione about it. After hearing the content of the letter, Hermione asked, I want to know where you plan to arrange the 3 of them in this situation. It must not be stuffed into Sirius's house like Malfoy. After all, Mrs. Malfoy is a member of the Black family. Although the Greengrass family also has a relationship with the Black family, it is not appropriate for the whole refuge in the past. Lane said here, how about sending it to Hogsmeade? Not very good. Hermione shook her head. After this operation, the Greengrass family will definitely be on the mysterious man's hunt list. Hogsmeade is not suitable. The security in that place is too low. We can't risk it. That risk. Chapter 719, Panic. Lane proposed a plan for the Greengrass family to move, but Hermione rejected it. For the sake of model role, as Greengrass and Malfoy as the two families who fled to Ryan must ensure the safety of these two families. The houses in Hogsmeade do not meet this requirement in terms of safety. Hogsmeade's current defense wants to block the Death Eater's large-scale offensive, or small-scale simple penetration is okay. But once the mysterious person decides to kill someone, I don't think Hogsmeade can block those. The raid of the elite team, Hermione said with her hands spread. So where do you think it's more appropriate to put the Greengrass people? Ryan asked. After all, they are now the source of danger, and they cannot always bring disaster to others because of them. Of course not. Hermione bit her lip and said, I mean, the Greengrass family can live in this manner temporarily. I think we should be able to guarantee safety here. If you decide, then do it. Ryan nodded, and according to British habits, all the things in this family are decided by the hostess. So after Hermione made the decision, Ryan did not object. After all, this manor is large and has enough space for 4 people from the Greengrass family. As far as safety is concerned, there are some independent buildings in the manor. Just tidy up a guest room and ban them from entering the main house. So this afternoon, Ryan ordered several robots in the house to pick up an independent building in the manor, and then went to several worlds to prepare enough weapons for a small battle. At 6 o'clock the next day, Lane and Hermione appeared 3 kilometers away from Greengrass Manor. For security reasons, Ryan and they are ready to walk past someone around. After stepping out of a small wood, Hermione stopped suddenly and alertly. At this time, she and Ryan wore a school uniform-like clothes and carried a school bag to disguise as a mole couple traveling in winter. Because when they visited here before, they found that the Greengrass family manor was very close to a hot spring attraction, and they were better able to hide themselves in their clothes. There are attractions around here, so someone should be very normal. Ryan replied to Hermione through the Phoenix brand, this place is not surprising if you don't enter the range of Greengrass Manor. Don't look to the right, there are 2 guys in a suit but standing in the range of Greengrass Manor. Hermione pulled Ryan forward and said through the Phoenix brand, it feels like it is specifically for us. Ryan responded at once and Hermione was right. If they turned around and looked at the 2 people who should theoretically be invisible to moles, the Death Eaters would immediately know that Ryan was wrong. How could anyone be watching here? Asked silently as he walked forward to Lane. Our previous connection should be very covert. How could it be found that the group of Death Eaters was wrong? It's not clear, but this matter will not be that simple today. Ryan muttered softly. He just looked at the 2 guys standing on the side of the road more than 10 meters away with the afterglow of his eyes. The guys are all the kind of dark wizards with a certain level, and there is also some kind of magical props on their bodies. After turning a corner to confirm that the 2 people were blocked by a bush of trees, Ryan and Hermione touched back with stealth magic. After entering the forest and communicating with the plants, Lane felt the existence of the third person 7 or 8 meters behind the 2 people. The third person is now hiding in a 1-person high earthen pit, with concealed objects made of branches and leaves. If it wasn't that the pit he dug was close to a tree root, it would not be easy for the average person to find him. A highly targeted trap. Lane confirmed that there was no 4th ambush. He thought that the wizards who knew the Greengrass family manor would definitely enter the manor through normal entrances and exits, and now these guys hiding on the roadside are trying to sneak in of the person. Know that although the Greengrass family estate is large in area, there are magics around it for space interference. Only this place on the Mole Road in order to avoid the inexplicable appearance of the wizards in the Mull's field of vision. This kind of interference has been weakened, and at the same time, some defensive magic has been reduced to avoid accidentally hurting the Mull, so the general penetration is also will choose this direction. Fortunately, it's easy for the reconnaissance to determine the position of the 3 people, and Ryan and Hermione used magic to hide themselves and slowly approached them. After a command, they started to work simultaneously, and the green light of 3 fingers of death flashed. The guy immediately fluttered the street. Then Ryan prepared a simple ritual magic to quickly summon their souls and began to interrogate, but the information obtained was very bad. The 3 of them were sent by Voldemort to investigate whether anyone had infiltrated the Greengrass family estate, and from 3 they were sent here a few days ago. That means that our actions are probably already known by the mysterious person, and maybe even the whole thing is a bureau of the mysterious person. After watching Ryan send away 3 souls to the world of the dead, Hermione snorted, pinch your lips. So shall we continue next? Of course continue, Lane said. This time we are underestimating the mysterious man, even if the soul is cut and there is not much left in the body, but his cunning is not much worse than in the past. Don't forget that when Harry dreamed of seeing the mysterious man before, I found something important. So I think this jump pot and the whole conspiracy are true. That is to say, this time the mysterious person wants to use this jumping pot to attract us to kill in the past. Hermione concluded, it is no wonder that you will be chosen. At least you are really a little bit worse than Principal Dumbledore. And the accumulation is not enough in terms of age. The difficulty of getting rid of you should be much lower. Although you are telling the truth, next time you can express it with a little politeness. Ryan made a joke, and then said positively, "But I don't think he should have thought that I can gain strong power in such a short period of time, so it is not easy to say who attacked this time. After entering Greengrass Manor www.mplnovel.com, their conjecture was completely confirmed. There was no one here after opening the door. It was not until he walked into the reception room that he found a body lying on his back on the sofa. He was Mr. Greengrass. The face of the corpse had a shocked expression on his face, as if he was surprised by his death. In addition, many of the furniture in the room seemed very messy. It should be someone who rushed in and destroyed all this. In addition, the body of the house elf was poured on the side of the coffee table in the reception room. Several teacups and a teapot rolled down on the carpet. The tea inside dyed a large piece of carpet brown. They died a day ago. Hermione, who had mastered the magic of the undead, checked the two corpses a little and got an accurate autopsy result, and then restored what happened here according to the environment of the scene. At about 6 o'clock last night, there were 7 people in this living room plus a house elf. The 3 guests were known or familiar by Mr. Greengrass. Greengrass even called his wife and children to receive this together. 3 guests. But just as everyone appeared in this living room, the guests suddenly violently killed Mr. Greengrass and the house elf who could phantom the scene, and then kidnapped Mrs. Greengrass and hers 2 children. While speaking, Hermione called blue images in the air to restore the scene at that time. What do those uninvited guests seem to leave us? While Hermione was using magic, Ryan suddenly noticed a flash of light in a corner of the room. Chapter 720, Yangmou. After discovering the flash in the room, Ryan moved up curiously. After checking, he can confirm that this flash is actually a simple message magic. As long as the magic power is injected, you can see the content inside. Infused with a little magic, a sharp and crazy female voice from Ryan, who they are familiar with, immediately came out of this shimmering place. "Muddy, we are here waiting for you now. As long as you come over, we can stop our actions and save them at the same time." The 3 ladies from the Greengrass family. "Let us take a look at your guts." After these words were finished, a low-pitched male voice said a certain position and a time in southern England, and there was the crazy laughter of the previous female. "Damn, it's Bellatrix," Hermione whispered, then frowned. "But lunatics like Bella should also be well known in pure blood. How could Mr. Greengrass take the whole family out to see her?" "I guess it was Bella who used compound decoction to pretend to be someone else," Ryan explained. "For these purebloods, there are usually many contacts. Bella and her associates should have obtained some hair from a pureblood wizard who had made good relations with the Greengrass family, and then pretended to be their identity." "Come in." "Now we have 2.5 hours, Ryan said after waving his wand. At this time, a long list of numbers representing the current time was displayed in the air. "We have enough time to move our floating castle secretly near that place." "Really?" Hermione asked subconsciously. After all, the main institution in the construction of the floating castle was Ryan, so she didn't know the whole floating city very carefully. "Absolutely no problem, because the secret flight speed of our flying fortress is 65 kilometers per hour, and its specific location is located near Oxford. If everything goes well, in fact, it can reach that location in just 2 hours. Lane quietly explained. "Don't you plan to use this floating fortress to give a mysterious blow to the mysterious man? How come you have changed your mind now?" After hearing Ryan's words, Hermione then asked, "Aren't you going to hide this floating fortress?" "It's best if you can hide nature," Ryan said. "But now I think it's better to bring a floating fortress for this sudden situation." "Of course, you see, I have prepared it in our space bag. A lot of weapons. Maybe we can solve all the problems without going to the last guard of the floating fortress." "I hope everything goes so well." Hermione shrugged. "But I think the next battle should be very difficult. After all, this is a trap designed for us. I am worried that they will make some targeted preparations." "It's okay, as long as we are ready to do what we can. The rest depends on the fate," Ryan said as he changed into a large and a small coffin, put the 2 bodies in, and then directed with a magic wand as they drifted out of the door. Hermione followed closely behind him. After going out, Ryan dug 2 deep pits in the grass in front of the door to put the coffin down, and then restored everything to the original state and silently observed this temporary graveyard for a few seconds. Although his previous connection with the Greengrass family was purely for profit, but Greengrass's death had something to do with him anyway, so now these things are what Ryan feels he must do. After the silence, Ryan then said to Hermione, "Based on the previous battles, I believe that the mysterious man already knows our magical level. So this time it is not a large group of Death Eaters who can ambush us there. The elite among them is the mysterious person himself. In this case, as long as we win, our cleaning plan will be almost completed, and the war should be over." "You are right." After the silence, the 2 began to walk outside the manor. After a little thought, Hermione said, "Now Americans have stopped supporting mysterious people because of our destruction, which also led to a large number of pureblood family clans' heritage being filled into the war. Next we only need to consume enough life of the pureblood family. I think this war can be over." Ryan's previous actions gave the Death Eaters a feeling that they were protecting the Muz as their first goal, so this time they set up a trap that would prevent them from choosing to escape. But in the current situation, Who is the hunter and who is the prey may not make them imagine. Let's go back to the floating fortress first. After leaving the manor, Lane pulled Hermione's phantom back to the floating fortress. After the two people stepped into the control room, they saw a small figure floating on the edge of the flying stone core and operating something. Several pictures were projected beside her, with surrounding images, a series of patterns indicating the data of various floating city fortresses, and a map of the British Isles. You have worked hard, little Rose. Ryan greeted the busy Rose Crystal. The little puppet jumped from the air after hearing what Ryan said, and the surrounding patterns disappeared. You're back, brother and brother. Rose Crystal's face showed a smile. I didn't have any hard work just now. This simple movement does not require manual operation. The tower spirit at the core of the magic tower is enough to complete such a simple task. I just felt a little curious just now. After finishing speaking, the three people left the control room below the floating fortress and took the special teleportation circle inside to the magic tower. After opening the door of the guest room, a little girl's chatter came from the room. Good evening, Ryan. The silver-haired black-winged puppet facing the gate waved, and then said nothing at all. Your castle in the sky is really great, but unfortunately Father Luozen doesn't think it makes sense to make such a thing. Mr. Luozu is right, Mercury lamp, Ryan said after sitting on the table. The purpose of this castle is to build a war, a brutal war. Fortunately, you don't need to face these in your world. www.mplnovel.com. Naturally, you don't need to consume a lot of materials like us. Build such a building. Okay, Rose Crystal flapped her tiny wings. My father said the same. But did you really not notice that your sky city is as beautiful as those castles in fairy tales? Thank you, really Red. At this time, Zhenhong held a huge teapot for her and filled the glass in front of Ryan and Hermione with black tea. Ryan took the teacup and nodded their thanks. Then Ryan looked at Rose Crystal and said, Sorry, I really didn't pay attention to these. We only noticed the magical effect of this floating fortress before. But this castle is so beautiful. The voice of the Mercury lamp hadn't fallen yet, and Rose Crystal flew to her and said, That's because the elder brother found a group of elves to do the design. He didn't care about it at all. It turns out so. The Mercury lamp nodded. But don't refuse me if I want to play later. That wouldn't happen naturally. The door here will be open to you at any time, Lane said with a smile to the Mercury lamp, and then he looked at the others. I think Rose Crystal has told you why you should be invited over. Of course, we certainly know how cruel the battle will be next. As the backbone of Teacher Luozen's daughters, Canary stood up and said, But I believe that we can win with our level and preparation. That's right. Ryan also smiled on the face of the little puppets. No matter how many conspiracies the enemy engages in today, the final winner must be us. Chapter 721, Missed. 2 hours away, Ryan ate dinner with these little dolls who came to support. The remaining time is used to analyze and arrange what should be done during the next battle. Our destination is on an open space in central Hampshire. At this time the dining table has been cleaned up, and a 3D map is projected above. Ryan pointed the introduction with his wand as a teaching pointer. This open space is northeast of Portsmouth and is now a nature reserve. And on the side of the wizard, I checked some of the Ministry of Magic materials before and I can be sure that no wizard has lived here for 300 years. To talk to the world of magic, the only thing in this area that is related to magic is that there are several very common magic herbs growing in the forest. These herbs are not unique to this region, nor are they the best in this region. That is to say, you don't know why the enemy set the battlefield here. As a think tank in the puppet, Canary said with his hands on his chest. The battlefield selected by the enemy is actually very bad for you. Right now, can you lure out the enemy? It's extremely unlikely. Ryan shrugged. I must destroy the evil magic ritual prepared by the group of black wizards, and they know it. In this case, I think they cannot give up their presupposition. The position ran out with me desperately. It's terrible. Canary murmured, then looked down at the map and said seriously. If that's the case, you can only be tough. But such a large area is too bad for the attacking side. Yes, can you call for more helpers? It is indeed a good idea to mobilize the helper. I think we can mobilize. Hermione was saying that suddenly an owl brooch on her body vibrated slightly, and she immediately exited the room when she saw it. After a few minutes, she walked in ugly. What happened? Ryan asked, and the dolls in the room also turned around and looked at Hermione. Under a crowd of people, Hermione took a deep breath and said, I was in touch with Penlo just now. She told me that the mysterious man appeared and defeated a 7-person Auror squad outside of Hogsmeade. Now the entire Hogsmeade town is at the highest level. Alert state. Can you be sure that he himself? Ryan asked, and he didn't dare to carelessly at this time. Also, who is the mysterious person with the group of Death Eaters? The mysterious man was dispatched today without any Death Eaters. Hermione frowned when she spoke, because such a school is completely different from his previous habits. In all the previous battles it was all a group of Death Eaters who played the striker, and Voldemort himself finally made a final decision. Never seen Voldemort's tactics of playing shirtless alone. I guess it might be pinning. The Canary thought of a possibility. If there is only the Black Devil alone, he has enough maneuverability to maintain great pressure around him. You are right. Ryan nodded. In this case, Professor Dumbledore and those who are currently defending in Hogsmeade can't leave his post at all. Even if there are not too many people who can be transferred, let them come to die instead of helping. But we are not short of manpower, Canary said. There are 1,500 alchemy robots stored in this floating castle. Although the level is much lower than that of the wizards, it is only compared with the number of human resources. We have an advantage, and although these human resources can be regarded as humans, we are the only ones in this house. After nearly an hour of discussion, Ryan's response plan they summed up was just the words of adaptability. After all, they have too little information this time, and many places do not know how to prepare. At 8:40 p.m., the floating castle finally arrived 5 kilometers away from the agreed location. Standing on the edge of the castle, Lane could only see the woods covered by a large white fog. Passive magical reconnaissance simply can't see what's inside, and active reconnaissance magic is likely to alarm the people who are hidden in it before to let them hurt the hostages or act early to destroy Zaxing's large-scale damage plan for ordinary people. This time Hermione came from behind him and said, "The good news is that it is now basically certain that the jumping pot is inside, because we can feel a strong magical fluctuation in the core area of this place, which should be caused by some powerful alchemy props." At this time the Canary also flew and said, "Rose Crystal and the sisters are on standby. We will rush over as soon as you order. The distance of 5 kilometers is for us to fly for more than a minute." "Then please here." Ryan jumped down with Hermione after he finished speaking, summoning his wings to slow down when approaching the ground, and finally fell silently to the ground. This is definitely not a naturally formed thing. After landing, Ryan looked in the direction of the target, and found that the milky white opaque fog stood in front of them like the same wall, as if there was a transparent wall to put the strange foggy place and normal the place is cut in two. "However, we still have to pass by anyway." Hermione looked a little helpless. "Even if it's a trap against us. But if we think about ordinary people who are innocent, we simply can't turn a blind eye." "You are right, let's go in." Lane smiled. "This time it's not impossible to reap a jump pot, because I think the mysterious person also knows that a defective product can't lie to me." To be precise, this time he turned the ordinary people around him into a corpse. The plan itself is true. Only in this way can we ensure that we are completely trapped as he planned the conspiracy. After stepping into the invisible wall, Ryan suddenly felt that the surroundings became quiet all at once, and the visibility suddenly became no more than 20 meters. The mist absorbs all the sounds of the surroundings like cotton. www.mplnovel.com. Let everything in the haze. "Have you found anything?" Hermione asked after walking forward a distance. "I found that my magical reconnaissance distance has been greatly reduced, and there seems to be no animal or insect activity in the reconnaissance area. This place is very problematic." Lane stopped and pressed his hand against a tree. After 10 seconds or so, he dropped his hand and said to Hermione, "It feels like all my life has been taken away. Under normal circumstances, these trees should give me a feedback, but now there is nothing. What is abnormal is that they are still alive." After looking at Hermione's somewhat puzzled eyes, Ryan explained, "Although plants don't react as magically as animals do, they do have some feedback on nature's magic. But now, they give me the magic just now did not respond at all. How about contacting the outside?" Hermione suddenly thought of something, nervously asking, "Especially the contact with the puppets standing on the floating fortress is still normal." "It's still normal for the time being," Ryan said, "because I prepared some magical communication methods that have never appeared in this world when I built the floating fortress magic tower. The communication with the floating castle is normal, but otherwise the alchemy props on my body used to communicate with Lupin and the gorillas are no longer valid. These fogs are likely to have a shielding effect." "Damn, this feeling of knowing nothing about it is too bad." After complaining, Hermione rallied and went on to walk deep into the jungle with Ryan. Chapter 722, Wolf Crowd. "The Death Eaters are also very conscious of them," Ryan said as the two of them advanced towards the predetermined position deep in the woods. "It seems that our previous attacks made them discover some of our attack characteristics, and this time all of the layouts are clearly aimed at the features we exposed before." "You're right, I feel the same way." Hermione ran a few steps forward and stood on a stump before turning around and saying to Ryan, "They should limit our ability to detect the first time, trying to break the previous fighting habits we used to gain a lot of advantages by sneak attack, and conceal the forces that belong to ourselves." Here, Hermione frowned slightly and asked, "But the problem is that at least hundreds of years ago, the files did not say that there is a problem in this place, and I don't believe that the group of Death Eaters can arrange such a large-scale magic circle. I believe that the group of Death Eaters should have just discovered this place and found all the original starting methods of this place," Lane said. While walking forward, "Know that the Death Eaters are from all pure-blood family. I think the records in their family will be more comprehensive than those recorded in the Ministry of Magic. Maybe some of them found something in it." During the discussion, the two people moved forward quickly. Fortunately, although the place is full of various disturbances and turbulence, most people have no way to illusion. But for Ryan they just increased the difficulty of space traversal, which does not mean that they could not teleport. Of course, For safety reasons, Ryan first moved a few hundred meters towards the destination, then used the special effect of Phoenix Brand to pull Hermione to her side. In this way, they spent 15 minutes across the 5 kilometers of strange woodland. It should be here. At this time, Ryan and Hermione were standing side by side on a boulder. Now in front of him and Hermione was the same thing as the invisible wall seen on the way before. It's just that unlike the wall on the way, there is no mist outside the wall. Looks like we are here. After confirming that there was no problem in the surroundings, they crossed the invisible boundary. Appearing in front of them was a piece of flat grass, the size of a football field, and a simple tent in the middle of the grass. This tent is just an ordinary tent without any magical reaction. After Ryan held the magic wand and opened the curtain to enter the tent, they found that the mother and daughter of the green grass family were now lying on the broken carpet beside the tent door. In addition, there are several men and women who were also comatose and were placed everywhere in the tent. In the center of the tent, a crucible slightly larger than the ordinary crucible is boiling a liquid like green mud. Unlike ordinary crucibles, the bottom of this crucible has a small cast brass foot that is the size of Ryan's arm. In theory, if this is the legendary jumping pot, it should now use this foot to keep jumping. But now, after being grilled on a green magic fire by a silver shelf covered with serpentine reliefs, the little foot twitched continuously. After chanting a few spells, Ryan shone a pink light around the crucible. After a sound like cold water gradually getting into the hot oil, a lot of fluorescent green runes appeared on the outer wall of the pot. These runes are full of weird feelings, just like someone scribbling with a magic wand after being drunk. But the brilliance of the breath above and below, and the magic flowing above, illustrate the power contained in these runes. What's this? Hermione, who had just checked all the unconscious people in the bombing tent, turned her head and happened to see this scene. Why do I feel a little uncomfortable when looking at these words? Do you feel uncomfortable? I think this should be normal, because these runes are a branch of ancient Greek, known as profanity in the age of mythology. It is specifically used for black magic props production and writing black magic, the special language of the book. There is a certain bonus to the black magic cast, Ryan explained. For example, now, this pot has been completely contaminated by these profanities, which were probably drawn by mysterious people. Total pollution? Hermione's eyes widened. That is to say, the plan to convert those ordinary people into corpses is true. Can this pot really do this? Of course. Don't forget that this jumping pot was included in the legend together with the 3 holy weapons of death. Think about the power of the 3 holy weapons of death. It is understandable that this pot can do the step in the previous plan. Yes, Ryan nodded with certainty, and then he asked, "Oh, what are these unconscious people? The situation is not too good." Hermione said, "When I checked just now, I found that all of them drank a peculiar potion. These potions will not be fatal, but they will cause people to fall into a deep sleep. And apart from the 3 members of the green grass family, there are traces of torture on the body." Drowsy and tortured? Ryan frowned. "What is the situation of this lethargy? Can you wake them up?" "I think this place is not safe. We need to quickly remove these non-combatants." "Sorry, I don't have such ability." Hermione's face looked a little ugly. "This potion is not fatal, but it is very complicated. If you wake up forcibly, it will permanently damage their soul." Having said this, Hermione paused, and then went on to say, "The people other than the green grass family should be the hemp wizards kidnapped by the mysterious people before, because I recognized a few people in our newspapers. The photos in the PPLS bulletin look the same. Their situation is worse, because the torture hurt their souls, and if it is replaced by force, it will cause fatal damage." After speaking, Hermione passed the specific results of the previous inspection to Ryan through the Phoenix brand. Ryan was surprised to find that the complexity of this potion was only comparable to that of true medication. Even if he used the power of Madonna Rose, it would take half an hour to analyze and produce the corresponding antidote. However, the person who designed the trap this time certainly did not intend to give Ryan emergency time. Just as Ryan had just read the information transmitted by Hermione through the Phoenix brand, there were several wolves howling outside. Werewolf. As the people who had been dealing with Lupin and their werewolves for a long time, Lane and the 2 of them immediately recognized the source of this voice. Based on the calls of the werewolves, they clearly judged that the werewolves outside had almost surrounded them. Damn. Today is the full moon. www.mplnovel.com. Only then did Ryan realize that according to the Eastern lunar calendar, today is the 15th, but even in his last life he only paid attention to the lunar calendar, not to mention the 10. He has lived in the UK for several years and has not noticed this at all. It's really insidious, Ryan said to himself inwardly. The powerful magical interference around this place makes even a wizard like him who masters special space traveling skills can't guarantee that people with coma can be 100% safe, let alone. So many people are difficult to take away at once. Obviously, after attracting Ryan with a jumping pot, the group of people dragged them with the green grass women and a few innocent people. Then summon a group of people to kill them. It's just that Ryan wondered why Voldemort chose the werewolf. According to the simple test done by Ryan before, even the werewolf that can maintain human consciousness after being transformed into a wolf like Professor Lupin is in a mess with the small scale of the wizards. 3 plus 3, not to mention the werewolf on the Voldemort side. All have no human consciousness after becoming wolf-shaped. If Voldemort mixed Death Eaters and werewolves this time, Ryan suspected that there would be a high probability that they would fight on their own before contacting Ryan. If only the werewolves were sent, Ryan did not think that a group of guys with little brains in the werewolf form could do much harm to themselves, because the werewolves who are willing to surrender to Voldemort will not exceed 200 even if they are the most optimistic. Even if these werewolves have powerful magic and physical defense capabilities, Ryan does not think they will be their opponents, especially if they have the deadly brainlessness. Weakness. Chapter 723. Whole card. Feeling the werewolf attacking, Ryan summoned a squad of puppets standing by in the sky for the first time, and at the same time Hermione stepped out of the tent to apply some protective magic to protect these temporarily inoperable rooms. People. After watching Hermione step out of the tent, Ryan came to the edge of the jumping pot to check the current situation of the magical crucible. He needed to figure out how to stop the magic on the jumping pot from being activated. Although it is said that the magic has greatly weakened the attack power against the single target in order to pursue the maximum killing range, even as long as there is a little magic in the body, this curse magic can avoid the bad consequences of entering the body. But considering that Southampton, one of Britain's top 10 ports, which is only 7 or 80 kilometers away from this place, Lane felt that he had to disarm the bomb that could explode at any time. But unexpectedly, Lane's first tentative attempt was successful. He just trapped the energy of Our Lady of Roses with his hands and then touched the handle of the jumping pot with his hands. He was surprised to find that there was no counterattack in his imagination, so he gently moved the pot away from the fire with light arms, and after losing the energy injected by the magic flame below, the magic reaction on the pot began to gradually disappear. It was at this time that several runes suddenly broke, and a burst of frequencies so high that normal humans could hardly hear them rang. But these sounds are not harmful, but they sound like some kind of signal. How could it be so simple? Ryan was puzzled by holding the pot handle in both hands. Suddenly, he felt the temperature in his hands getting hotter and hotter. It quickly exceeded the normal temperature, and in theory, even if the molten metal was taken freely by a layer of the energy of the Holy Rosary, it would not feel any high temperature. He lowered his head, and he saw that the energy of the pink rose mulch covering his hands was rapidly fading. Fortunately, his body has been strengthened repeatedly, so that his hands will not be scalded by the temperature of Baidu. This is. While Ryan was in amazement, Hermione slammed the curtain of the tent and rushed in, saying at the same time, "It's not right. I just cast a safeguard and all protection outside the tent, but these magic it will soon disappear." The disappeared magic, isn't it just the problem on this pot? Ryan thought of putting the jumping pot next to the cabinet, and then pulled out his wand and shouted to a corner, "I fainted." I saw a red ray of light flying out of the stick head as usual, but it quickly dimmed as soon as the ray of light appeared. The red light disappeared completely when it reached 3 or 4 meters. "Are you using some kind of concealment technique?" Hermione asked. The wizards have some special skills in their spellcasting. For example, many wizards who are proficient in combat will have some tricks to hide the spell light or change the color of the spell. This allows them to gain a greater advantage in combat. Hermione thought Ryan was using one of these methods. No. Ryan's face suddenly became serious. There is a problem in this place, and the surrounding environment is very destructive to our magic power. For example, just now that magic has lost all its energy in the air. Speaking of which, Ryan finally knew what the killing move Voldemort had prepared, and that was this strange land. In this land, it is basically impossible for them to use powerful magic, and if they cannot use magic, neither Dumbledore nor other people, nor even Voldemort himself can escape after fighting with more than 100 werewolves. Raw days. Brother, we can't get there within the scheduled time now, because this place can't fly with magic power at all. At this time, Ryan received the bad news of the puppet team led by Rose Crystal. "But if you need help urgently, I can let the Mercury lamp come over in advance. She has wings and this place does not affect her flight." "No, you still have to act in groups. Pay attention to safety. We have a way here, you don't have to worry." After appeasing the anxious Rose Crystal through the soul, Ryan pulled out a laser pistol from the space pocket and opened it toward the corner of the tent. A shot. A red light flew from the muzzle and hit a small wooden cabinet placed there, then hit a fist-sized scorch mark on it. The electronics-related things can be used here. Hermione's eyes widened at the sight of this scene. "This is great. I remember you brought a lot of technological weapons from those worlds." "Yes, this place is weird. It seems that most of the magic cannot be used, but everything that is not related to magic can be used normally. It is like the opposite of the magic we have at Hogwarts," Lane said aside. 2 big keys were taken out of the space bag. "This gives us a chance. I think the mysterious human brain should not guess what kind of weapon we have in our hands." "You're right. They certainly can't think of the must that they look down on. And they also have powerful weapons." Hermione looked at the 2 power armor that had just been taken out. These 2 are the XO1 power armor in the radiation world, which is also a battle. After the best power armor, after the overall improvement of the alien technology obtained by the world in black before. These 2 sentences can even be said to be reborn. I guess that's because he thinks that we have weapons and at most some rifles or pistols. And this type of weapon is completely impossible to produce enough lethal damage to those werewolves. The power armor was activated soon after it was taken out. After that, Ryan and Hermione entered the power armor and chatted with the radio. You are right. The book I read in the library lists a wolf-shaped werewolf that killed the whole Viking warrior on the leading ship that came to England for robbery nearly 1,000 years ago. With their spears, short swords or axes, it is difficult to break through the werewolf's defense. Even if some weapons have caused damage to the werewolf's body, they can't make the werewolf lose its combat effectiveness. But it is very clear, which shows that this place does not hinder the use of various technological products. Oh, at this time another wolf howling sounded. From the distance is much closer than just now. It sounds like the wolves have charged into the forest on the edge of this flatland. www.mtlnovel.com. Before, these wolves have been scattered and hidden in the whole forest with white fog. This is to avoid being discovered by Ryan. And now, all the werewolves were attracted by the signal when Ryan picked up the pot. They began to gather together to prepare a deadly attack on everyone in this tent on the open ground. Walked out of the tent, and a dozen red dots were quickly displayed on the helmet display in front of Ryan. And these red dots continued to increase. Just as Ryan picked up Gatling from Atom 4, Hermione's voice was heard on the other side of the tent. It feels like these werewolves are used to being like wolves. With a little static noise, Hermione's voice rang in the helmet. They seemed to wait for the gathering to launch a raid. You're right. Think about Professor Lupin when they turned into wolves. This attack action is also like a real giant wolf. Not to mention that I think it is likely that the native werewolf Fenrir will lead today. Greyburk, his attack will surely be of a ruled manner, and will not leave us with some possibility of escape. Soon, one red dot after another appeared on the small map of the display screen. Ryan found that they stopped at the edge of the wood and slowly approached under the cover of the tree. From time to time, they raised their hair and howled to try to create pressure. It seems they surrounded us, Ryan said to the microphone while looking at a circle of red dots around the open space on the small map. Prepare to fight. It is estimated that the next battle will be an endless battle. Chapter 724, Times have changed. There are more and more red dots appearing on the display, and they don't increase until the number approaches 200. But at this time, those red dots have turned into a red circle to completely surround the open space. Oh, a grey werewolf, some older than the other wolves, walked out of the forest first, then raised his head and howled. For a moment, the tall wolves rushed out of the forest, and then rushed to the little tent in the center of the open space on all fours like a real wolf, and howled while sprinting. Prepare to shoot. Hermione and switch to the auxiliary aiming system. When facing a large group of enemies, it is much easier to use than our manual aiming. It is also the best way to cooperate with this set of power armor on us. Ryan pointed into the microphone, speaking. Okay. I have seen the heads of the werewolves who are rushing out are surrounded by a red circle. Hermione's voice came from the headphones. What should I do next? Although I have received training before, I have never crossed this gadget in actual combat. Relax. In fact, this set of power armor is completely intelligent. You only need to believe the computer in the armor. Ryan comforted that some werewolves had rushed over from the cover of the forest. Now shoot. Ryan yelled, and two silver-white Gatling guns were fired at once. Ryan could feel the power mesh arm under the control of a large number of hydraulic pumps and quickly moved towards the Gatling gun. Shoot one by one. The ammunition shot by the machine gun is blue, only a light ball the size of a pinball. After being blown on the ground, it will bring a lot of mud like a grenade, and once hit the werewolf, it will cause a football-sized hole. Even a werewolf with strong physical strength, resilience, and endurance can't stand up again after a shot in the trunk. In addition, Ryan and Hermione's mesh each turned up two small bursting pistols called small crickets. With a clicking sound, all the joints on the power armor from the back to the feet were locked, and something appeared on the feet that grabbed the ground. Open fire! Ryan and Hermione shouted at the same time. After a slight shock, 4 fireballs shot from the muzzle on their shoulders to the place where the wolves rushed up and gathered. Then there was a rumbling sound. The whole piece of ground near the point where the shell fell was shredded together with everything on the ground and then flew to the sky. Under the joint attack of the firepower beyond the times, the whole open space became a slaughterhouse. There was blood everywhere, stumps and mud that had been turned up by the explosion. But these things did not prevent Ryan from continuing their shooting, and the life radar was not covered by some dust. A round of Gatling's atomic blasting ammunition still smoothly created huge holes in the werewolf's body or head. Less than a minute, all the red dots on the radar screen that represent the enemy disappeared within the clear ground. After making sure no one rushed up, Ryan finally stopped shooting. Soon the smoke dissipated, and a messy ground appeared in front of them. The entire open space was destroyed by the large and small craters formed by the explosion just now, and around each crater, there are incomplete corpses of werewolves and fragments that have been blown up even more. The mysterious people have arranged so much handwriting, used so many people, and even paid for powerful magic props such as the jumping pot. Then the result is like this. Looking at everything in front of her, Hermione used speaking with confidence. Accurately, in 46 seconds. Instead of killing us, they almost wiped out the wolves. If I knew the mysterious man and our hatred, I would still use our mysterious person to help us to eradicate the evil. This is because the times have changed. Hermione, Ryan replied while picking up the body to make sure no one was pretending to be dead here. Under normal circumstances, we can only choose swords or ordinary gunpowder-powered firearms after prohibiting magical abilities. These simply cannot cause any effective damage to the werewolves, and those heavy weapons are not usable by the two of us. I think according to the werewolf's idea, they think their own single-digit loss can rush in front of us and tear the two of us apart. But their group of werewolves and even the mysterious people probably didn't expect us to have heavy firepower that can be held by a single person. Asymmetric information will naturally cause this scene. After confirming that there was no problem with the surrounding security situation, the two retreated from the power armor. When they pulled out their wands and waved to try their magic, they found that they were still unable to perform magic. I thought everything around me was arranged by mysterious people, but now it seems that it should not be. Ryan began to have some curiosity about this place. He wanted to know why this place would make magic invalid, but let the technological products be normal. It happened that the small dolls and the large alchemy puppets sent later did not come over, nor could they remove nearly 10 people in the tent. So during the time waiting for the reinforcements to arrive, Lane began to look for something is wrong. Unexpectedly, just over a minute later, Hermione discovered an anomaly in the side of a huge crater bombed by the little cricket. Lane, look, something under the crater is a bit abnormal. After discovering the anomaly, Hermione waved her hands like Ryan signaled. I think this place was not a normal open space at all. You're right. After walking to the pit for a look, Ryan soon discovered something was wrong. Based on his knowledge of plants, it is obvious that the grass and soil in this place have only been obtained from other places recently, not even for more than a week. What made Hermione feel that something was wrong was a piece of stone at the bottom of the pit. This piece of stone was square and square, and it was obviously impossible to be a product of nature. Even Hermione found several marks on it that should have been chiseled by the workers during the renovation. Now that they found something wrong, Ryan immediately re-entered the power armor and started to dig this big pit with some simple tools. When the reinforcements arrived, I happened to see two power armor equipped with a special shovel in their hands and worked hard to dig pits. www.mtlnovel.com. It would be great if you came. Seeing the arrival of reinforcements, Ryan jumped out of this pit that was more than 3 meters deep with his armor and said to the leading Rose Crystal, let the alchemy puppets first bring the unconscious people and the pot in the house. Go. After all, this place is really not suitable for those who are unconscious. What about you? My elder brother. Rose Crystal nodded and signaled the puppets behind to enter the tent to move people, and then asked with a small face on her back, is there anything here? Well, I found some abnormal phenomena here. I want to study them carefully. After that, Ryan briefly explained what they just discovered. Results. After listening to Ryan's discovery, all the dolls agreed to stay and accompany Ryan as they explored the mysteries of this place. According to the lead elder sister Mercury Lamp, she and her sisters must investigate this strange phenomenon of magic. The knowledge contained in it just happens to be a gift to his father Luo Zhen. In the next few days, Ryan dug a lot of ground with the help of a lot of puppets. After the entire ground was dug, Lane discovered that the lawn in the forest was purely artificially manufactured in a short period of time. By digging them, they found an ancient castle ruin buried in the soil under the lawn. It is amazing that after dawn, no matter the surrounding fog or the restrictions on magic power disappeared, the entire area has become indistinguishable from those nearby jungles, and in the following days nothing happened like that night. Chapter 725, Excavation. After the annihilation of the werewolves, Lane spent half a month in this forested open space to study this magical ruin. Through the excavation of a large number of puppets, an ancient and large-scale ancient city appeared in front of everyone. During the time they dig, the outside world has also changed a lot. When the alchemist dolls sent the rescued hostages back to Hogsmeade Town Hospital in their own manner, they also brought the latest information outside to them. Voldemort's previous harassment of Hogwarts was indeed to contain Dumbledore, but to Ryan's surprise, besides his ambush and Dumbledore's containment, Voldemort concentrated all he could control the Death Eaters raided Azkaban Castle and almost succeeded. Fortunately, under Moody's command, the Azkaban guard suffered little loss, and the group of Death Eaters rushed from the top of the castle into the prison cell of the top prisoner of the castle and triggered the magic circle that Ryan had set up. The magic array exploded after it sensed that a large number of unauthorized personnel had entered and exploded. At that time, everyone covered in this area ate a strong soul shock. According to the letter from Sirius, who was brought back by the alchemy puppet in Azkaban, 80% of the prisoners in custody died on the spot, and 3 Death Eaters did not respond because they were too close. Come and die together. At the same time, the people who survived were seriously injured by the soul. This also forced them to evacuate from Azkaban Castle with all the living people and a part of the corpse while occupying an absolute advantage. In short, this Voldemort's operation was once again a failure. and the loss was not bad. At least the werewolf annihilation of the whole army was an irreparable loss to Voldemort, especially when it was dawn the next day after the attack. Ryan found Fenrir Greba in a large number of bombed and fragmented bodies, the backbone of almost all evil werewolves. The biggest influence that the werewolf's almost army annihilation brought to Voldemort is that he can no longer threaten others by using the werewolf's effective terrorist means, which also makes Voldemort's control of the ruling area greatly reduced. For example, Lupin's letter brought back by the puppet stated that there have been many more wizards who have fled to the north recently than before. Of course, in addition to telling Ryan the information in Lupin's letter, he also expressed his gratitude in a large paragraph at the end. Because he was bitten by Fenrir Greyback before he experienced a painful first half of his life, and now they successfully killed Greyback in the battle. This incident also made Lupin feel a bit worried. In addition to letters from Sirius and Lupin, they also received letters from other people during this time of digging in the jungle. For example, greeting letters from Harry, Percy, Neville, Weasley twins and even Luna. These letters also bring a lot of fun to the boring excavation work, and reading these letters under the tent lights and to friends replying to letters has become rare entertainment activity for them during this time. After half a month of digging time, the outline of a city in the jungle was sorted out. According to the archaeological map drawn, they found that the city was large enough to accommodate 10,000 people living together. If you consider that the city was more than 1,000 years ago, it can be shown that the city was almost a miracle in Britain at that time. Accurately speaking, it is an architectural relic from more than 1,400 to more than 1,500 years ago. After using a combination of science and magic to detect a large number of building components and even a part of the excavated utensils, Hermione roughly inferred the site. There is time. I think I can be sure what's going on in this place. Ryan had just cleaned a red pottery bowl with only the bottom half left. From the rest, the pottery bowl was smooth and hard, and the color was well proportioned. It is used by nobles. After turning over the bowl, there was a nick on the bottom of the bowl with a word in Latin, Camelot, Camlo, King Arthur's capital. Hermione, who had read many books, was immediately excited after hearing the word Ryan's performance. I always thought it was just a legend. How could it be a legend? Ryan showed the bowl to Hermione. Don't forget that Merlin really exists in the history recorded by the wizards, and the Merlin Knight medal was originally to commemorate the wizards who helped ordinary people like Merlin, which specifically explained that King Arthur did exist in that era. And it also gave us a direction for the next investigation, Ryan said, pulling a book out of the space bag, and turning to a certain page. He pointed to Hermione word by word, because King Arthur's father King Yausel had carried out the massacre of wizards in the country. Camelot is a holy city that is not tolerated by evil magic. In other words, the magical power of this land is related to the wizards who died here 1,000 years ago. After listening to Ryan's studies, Hermione raised her eyebrows and said, "After all, legends cannot be fabricated out of thin air." "Yes, all kinds of legends always leave a shadow of facts." Ryan closed the book and nodded. "And if it is related to the soul, the power of death you have can play a big role in this situation." Sure enough, in the next targeted search, they easily ruled out a lot of places that didn't make much sense. Finally, the focus of the search was placed on the previous open space. Now the soil and lawn used by the Death Eaters to disguise the entire open space have been removed by the alchemy puppets, and the rest is a ruined wall that was hidden under the ground. Because of the severe damage caused by various natural and human factors in the long time, the highest part of the remaining part of this site is only as high as 1.5 people. But the rest of the exquisite reliefs that occasionally remain in the paint that remains in the corners of the reliefs all show the magnificence before this castle. Unfortunately, all the findings in this place can't tell ordinary people. Hermione sighed after the hole was cleared. Otherwise, just the name of Camelot is enough to make the whole world sensational. Said that she used her wand to gently wipe off the dust on a piece of earth-colored marble plaque buried under the wall. www.mplnovel.com. There appeared a scene depicting a knight riding a horse and fighting a dragon. This is marble from Syria, which was considered the best marble in the Roman era. Its appearance here shows that international trade more than 1,000 years ago was much more prosperous than people now know. Because outside researchers ignore wizards and magic, Ryan said looking at the marble slab. Don't forget that a wizard can easily bring dozens of tons of marble across the Mediterranean Sea to Britain in 3 days, and if someone who can't do magic is allowed to do it, it takes at least 30 people plus a month to complete this feat. Time. You are right. Ryan nodded. And even with the help of wizards, these top marbles from other countries are very precious. So I can be sure that we have dug into the core area of the castle now. After finished speaking, Ryan held Hermione's hand and summoned Our Lady of Roses. Soon with the magical cooperation of the two people, a pink ray of light trapped in a red mist spread around them in all directions. Found it. The two opened their eyes at the same time and said in unison. At this time, at a distance of 5 or 6 meters in front of them, a 3-meter diameter square began to permeate a trace of grey mist. It seems that this is what we are looking for. Ryan and they walked over, then bent down and looked at the slate floor that was no different from the surrounding. Hopefully I will find something that surprises us.